The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keeping It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latter from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ASA podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Chris Samsa from sportofprowrestling.com. On today's show, we will preview G1 Climax 34 and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP tier subscribers. If you want access to the weekly live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Chris, how you doing, man?
Yo, G1 season, let's go.
Ethan Sabre Jr. says, look at Chris, man, or Chris Samsa, man, so inspirational.
I don't know why, but I'll take it.
He also suggested that we should guest rap the intro.
I could do that. I could probably do it after hearing it as many times as I've heard it. I can probably get most of the way through it.
I'm pretty sure we've never rapped our own intro.
I'm down. You know, I was thinking actually earlier today, this is totally random and it's really funny that this came up immediately, but I was thinking back, I should do like a rock rap version of the Keeping It Strong Style intro to like throw in on days when I jump in on the strong style, because I mean, I could show the camera around. I've got the gear to do it. And I was thinking about like when Tommy Lee would do like remixes of Puff Daddy songs in like the late 90s, it could just be just exactly like that. I'll just rip the vocals out and call it a day and put some shredding guitars behind it.
Yeah, but if you're saying it's going to be like hip hop / rock, then it needs to be like late 90s, like Limp Bizkit.
Oh yeah. No, that's exactly it. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of I guess Tommy Lee.
You need turntables.
Puff Daddy, Mace, like that era of stuff. They did some pretty sick remixes. So yeah, I think I might work that up. Yeah, with all my spare time these days, I might just whip that up for you guys.
That era of rock where for some weird reason every single band had a DJ. No one could understand why that happened, but it did.
I'm kind of nostalgic for it now, though.
All right, guys. Well, it's that season.
I didn't have anything to add to that to be funny, so I just let it trail off. You know, I'm tired.
It's G1 season.
You're tired?
Yeah.
G1 season, Josh.
Sleepy Josh.
Here's the thing. Yeah, Sleepy Josh. Here's the thing. It's like I'm tired, so I know I need a boost before we do the show, but like I'm gonna need to go to bed after we get done, so that's gonna be counterproductive at that point. So
such is the life of the most influential New Japan podcaster in the world.
Hey, we have three.
Yep, it's you.
That's crazy.
We have 3 of the most influential people on the West here on there.
So I've heard that. I'm the only treasure though, I believe.
Oh, you are the number one. You are the number one seed.
Shout out Damon. Shout out Damon, who, if you're listening to this, reply to my text message, man. Thanks.
Damon's not listening to this. Joel is, but Damon is for sure not listening to this.
Damon might be. Who knows? I don't know. There's a storm rolling through Chicago, and that's usually when I get a text from Damon. He says, "Hey, man, some rough weather coming your way."
Oh, he's a weather guy.
It's a thing. Yeah, it's how our relationship is. He'll send me that text, and then we just shoot the shit about New Japan. It's great.
It's hilarious. Well, it's G1 season, guys. Of course, that's why we have Chris on here. So we'll jump into G1. We had tons of questions last week about predictions and previews and who's going to do what and stats and all that good stuff. So, of course, Chris is going to bring some great stats. Real quick, I just want to touch on Fantastica Mania USA that happened this past weekend. Chris, I know you have not watched the show. Josh, I don't think you've watched it either.
Jeremy, I think I need to give you one of these because it's for you. I didn't watch that shit. I
would love to watch it, but G1 season is it's a tough time for me. I have a lot going on in the pro wrestling world, and I have to prioritize.
I heard the show was good and more newsworthy than people anticipated. I heard the production was just god awful.
Oh, back to that, huh?
I don't know. It was in a high school gym. Jeremy, you tell me what you thought. I don't know. Was the show worth $20?
No. It felt like a traditional New Japan Strong TV taping in a high school gym. I mean, it was a fun show. The crowd was super hype. You had the air horns because they were in the San Jose area, and people were really big into the Lucha Stars from CMLL. And it was a fun show. I don't know if, again, if it should have been a pay-per-view, but it is what it is. There was some stuff that came out of the show. So I'll run through the results real quick. Won't give the breakdown. Just talk about any news items that came out. So show opened up with, they had the Copa Fantastica 4-way match. So the winner of this got a trophy and a guaranteed spot on next year's Fantastica Mania USA. So the DKC defeated Adrian Quest, Kukui, and Viento, 8 minutes and 31 seconds. Fun matchup there. So DKC.
That's assuming if there is another Fantastica Mania US.
Well, on commentary, they were pushing it hard. So it sounds like DKC is going to be, geared up for next year with this win here. Got a nice little trophy. Then after that, we had the MLW World Tag Team Champions Cozy Max, Okamura, and Satoshi Kojima. They defeated Magnus and Rugito in 9 minutes and 32 seconds. So fun match there with the champs retaining. Then we had the women's world title match with one of the first news items of this show. So broke last week that Stephanie Verkeer was pulled from this show. And later we would find out that she is signed with WWE. She made appearances on their Mexico tour this past weekend. And so she was stripped of the CMLL Women's World title and tag team titles. And she was replaced on this show by Willow Nightingale. Guys, any thoughts about Stephanie McCare jumping to the Fed?
I mean, she's great. She's a really good wrestler. I think we all saw her in Chicago, right? And I think that match was really great. But people are gonna go where they're gonna go. I don't know. I don't have strong feelings about like people signing anywhere. I don't even have strong feelings when people leave New Japan, and go sign with AEW or WWE or whatever. Like, I think where you spend your time making your money is a really important decision, and it's a really individual decision. So, she decided she wants to wrestle for WWE, and she had the opportunity to do that, and she did, which I think is great. I always like it when wrestlers leave places kind of ceremoniously also, but so that this was not that, obviously. You like it when people go out on their back or whatever it may be. I mean, there's so much discourse about when Okada left, about how he went out, but like, you like it when people go out with a little bit of pomp and circumstance, but like, I don't really know where she sat in like the levels of CMLL, if she was even that big of a deal to them. It sounds like she burned that bridge pretty good. And it's clear that WWE wanted her on those Mexico shows. So that's why they pulled the trigger on it quickly. And her contract must not have been so ironclad that she couldn't do that. So she bailed, and in turn she ended up bailing on what her situation was with New Japan. But sometimes that's life. Sometimes people make decisions and go and do stuff.
I mean, I'm not going to have strong opinions. It's a lady. You know what I mean? I'm just playing. No, I think Chris summed it up pretty well. I mean, the only real, I guess, like, salient New Japan point was that she was advertised for a very long time for this show and pulled out at the last minute, like 5 days prior. But I'm not even gonna, necessarily bury that, because business is business, and it is what it is. I'm not surprised. I actually train with some friends of mine that know Stephanie pretty well, and they've been telling me forever that they're like, she's gonna go to WWE the first chance she gets. So, I've heard in the media where people are like, that's her dream, but I've been hearing that for a long time, that like that is her like dream. Like, so I'm not surprised about it like whatsoever. Funny thing though is I know several people that are trying to get into Mexico, and she was like their point of contact. Like, I don't know if it's gonna fucking happen now. But other than that, I mean, there's not really much to say here. Apparently New Japan and more so CMLL were, pretty upset about the way it all transpired, but ultimately, like, she's an adult. This is the decision she made. It's the best, career move she could have made here. And there's probably a bunch of other voices out there, kind of picking this apart and diving into it a bit more than I care to, because at the end of the day, and I was making a joke earlier about her being a lady, but at the end of the day, she's on the roster, but she's not really a New Japan contracted talent. New Japan is primarily a men's, company. It's not really going to affect business or anything too much going forward. It's a big loss. She's a great talent, and I thought she added a lot to the shows, but it is what it is,
Yeah, I was going to be sad to see her go, just because she was a really good worker, and she was a fun addition to those New Japan Strong shows. But yeah, I think that in today's wrestling landscape, women's wrestlers, if you're a very good women's wrestler, it's going to be a hot commodity for either WWE or AEW. So I thought it was only a matter of time. I mean, after that first match she had with Mercedes last year, Resurgence, there are already people being like, all right, Tony and Vince, they need to make her an offer and sign her up right away. I mean, it took about a year, but here we are. She had offers from both companies, and I think it was very clear once she was pulled and Willow was replaced where she was heading, and then obviously news being made official. So also, wish her the best, and hopefully everything works out for her in WWE. But again, I don't think that's a huge impact on the New Japan landscape and New Japan Strong. Obviously, I'm sure there's going to be more women that they can kind of plug in, and we saw some women here on this show. So we did crown a new CMLL Women's World Champion in a three-way. Willow Nightingale defeated Uvia and Viva Van to become the new CMLL World Women's Champion. So fun three-way match there, and then kind of teased a CMLL woman having to bring the title back to CMLL, with it now being on Willow.
In case of emergency, break glass on Willow Nightingale.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they decided to put the title on Willow, not because she's not deserving of it or talented, just she's not a CMLL contracted talent. So I was a little surprised by that, honestly.
Yeah. Shout out to Rambone Slam Pig. He's heading out of town, and can't watch the stream tonight, but wanted to show some love to the Dream Team. Thanks, Rambones. So moving on to the next match, we had Hechicero and Virus defeating the TMDK team of Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. So pretty much a preview for the next Sabre Hechicero matchup here. It was Hechicero tapping out Bad Dude Tito to get the win there. Next up,
does MLW know about this?
I mean, I don't know that they promoted this Fantastica Mania at the MLW tapings we were at on Friday night, so I think they know.
Doesn't he have gold over there? They're gonna just let him job out like that? It's kind of ridiculous.
Well, he's only the national champion. It's not like he's the world champion.
Yeah, he's champion of the nation.
Who is their world champion now?
Kojima, maybe?
Is it Kojima? He's double champ?
Yes.
Oh.
We're
Why? Why is he a double champ? Sorry, I don't watch a lot of MLW. Sorry, I have other things to do.
We went to an MLW show.
I know you did. That's where
it.
That's how I keep up with MLW. Jeremy's Instagram stories, because you guys, I feel like you're always at MLW.
They were happy we were there. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Like, oh, you coming back in October?
And they're like, you're gonna come back, right? Right? And I was like, I guess.
You're like, comps? Sure, yeah, of course I'll be here.
I mean, I left an hour early, but whatever.
I left right before the main event, Riddle and Callahan.
Oh, that's not a main event I would want to watch. There's some good stuff. It was a good show. Good little show.
It was a fun show, yeah. So next matchup here on this show, Yota Tsuji defeats El Barbaro Cavernario, 14 minutes and 9 seconds. Awesome matchup here. Great crowd reaction for both guys. Tsuji really showing some of his lucha background in this matchup. Hits a Gene Blast on Cavernario to get the win here. Then we had the NJPW Strong Openweight title match. Gabe Kidd defeating Ultimo Guerrero in 12 minutes and 11 seconds. Hard-hitting matchup, tons of heat. Crowd really behind Ultimo. Really wanted to see him beat Gabe Kidd here. Towards the end, hits a low blow, pile driver, 1, 2, 3, gets the win over Ultimo. And then post-match, he gets on the mic and he calls out Lio Rush for Capital Collision. And I think it's August 30th for that next New Japan Strong pay-per-view in Washington, D.C.
Isn't he hurt?
He was hurt, but not like super injured. I think it was one of those kind of things. Like, he had to back out of a couple dates after that AEW ladder match. But I don't think it was anything serious. I think it was just one of those like, yeah, I need a couple weeks or one of those types of things.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, just in kayfabe, it's kind of like, didn't he just job to in New Japan? He just lost to Mustafa Ali. So why is he getting a title shot?
Well, Gabe Kidd said he calls his shots and he wanted Lio Rush, and he said he wants to end Leo's career for good. So
cool.
That's a weird match.
Yeah, it's
really just sort of I mean, like, Lio Rush is just gonna bounce off this dude. It'd probably be good.
Yeah,
but they need to work it out. Yeah, it's not a matchup that I look at and say like, yeah, that's gonna be a banger. You know, it's like, okay, this will be interesting.
It's not a match I look at and I say, let me slap down my $20 for pay-per-view to watch this show.
You're not flying to DC?
Yeah, we won't be making the trip to DC.
Well, there are big names advertised for DC. Saber, Naito. There's gonna be some big guys on that show, so we'll see how the card flushes out. But as of right now, Gabe Kidd challenging Lio Rush. I think Leo's from that area, so maybe that's why.
So are you saying that if the show's good enough, you're gonna go and cover it for us?
Maybe. If I get give me
DC to Florida to DC's not bad.
Yeah,
that's an easy trip.
I got tons of Southwest points, so we'll see what happens.
There you go.
Then next up, the main event, the tag team matchup with Doki and Mystico taking on Rocky Romero and Volador Jr. Doki and Mystico getting the win here. 24 minutes, 38 seconds. Really nice, long, solid main event. Obviously playing up on the history there of our good friend Rocky and Volador being forced to team up together, and obviously their history with Mystico as well. Then Doki's a new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, so he getting some spotlight here in this big main event. And so, yeah, Doki and Mystico get the win post-match. They tease, challenging each other for each other's championships. Mystico is the MLW middleweight champion, and I think he also has a CMLL title as well. Doki junior champion. So it seems like sometime soon, I didn't really say that Mystico will be challenging Doki for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. We had a question here.
World historic, I want to say middleweight champion. I'll look.
We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. Says, I don't know if you guys will be reviewing Fantastic Mania USA show, but thoughts on the show and the challenge Mystico gave Doki that he will put up his MLW or CMLL championship for a shot at the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. it's less likely that we'll see Doki hold onto the belt until the end of the year. But how likely is it that we could see the title match happen?
I think they probably did that angle because it's going to happen.
You would hope, right?
Right. I mean, like, I don't know. That feels natural to me. It also doesn't, I mean, it feels kind of neat. Also feels like Mystico could win the IWGP. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I could see them doing a thing where like Mystico, he defends his title against Doki and wins, and then Doki defends the junior title and wins, and you kind of go 50-50, even. Sure. Both guys keep their titles.
I was looking to see who, like, what title Mystico held, and I couldn't find him anywhere. And then I was like, oh, he was Caristico when he's held this title for so long that he was Caristico when he won it. And he's in the middle of a 2,156 day reign. And it is the world historic middleweight title. So, you know,
y'all keep saying Doki's not going back to Mexico though. So like,
well, not to the slums,
you know, I mean, well,
he's not going back to the dirt floors.
Yeah, he's not working the dirt floors, Tijuana. He's going to work, you know,
Arena Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Like, the thing is like, I'd love to be able to confidently say like, yeah, they've worked something out and we're definitely getting this match. And like all of that, you would think that they've coordinated it all, but we've seen time and time again where there have been times in New Japan where guys from CML come over, they try to work an angle and then just nothing comes of it. So I don't know. I'm optimistic, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like if they're doing this big old long angle that they would do something, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Plus, like, what are the logistics of that? I can't imagine CMLL or MLW really being okay with Doki winning their title. MLW is probably a little more realistic, but I think both are unlikely. And I guess anything could happen in New Japan, but wouldn't it seem like kind of just out of left field to put like the junior title on Mystico out of nowhere like that?
But it would kind of rock.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, Mystico's great.
I like weird stuff.
No one in St. Petersburg seemed to know who the fuck he was, but you know.
No, he was pretty over in that match.
I got a message from a friend of mine last Tuesday. He was in Arena Mexico and he sent me a picture of Mystico, and I was like, why are you in Mexico? And also, he's not a wrestling fan. Like, so I was like, also, why are you at Arena Mexico?
That's the tourist.
That's what you do. Right? Yeah, he had a great time. So, you know, but yeah, he sent me a picture and it was Mystico, and I was like, why are you? What?
That's tight.
Wild. It was cool. Yeah, it's good.
But it wasn't this Friday, because this Friday I saw Mystico in St.
No,
Peter.
it was Tuesday.
Oh,
so it was like, but there was like no one in. I mean, Arena Mexico was not full. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
but they're having a great time.
All right, well, now let's jump into what everybody came here for, the G1 Climax 34 preview and predictions. So this year's tournament's going to begin on July 20th with the finals happening on my birthday, Sumo Hall, August 18th. After 2 years of 4 blocks, we are back to a 2-block, 20-man format, and we are back to a 30-minute time limit after the 20-minute time limit from G1 33. And like usual, 2 points for a win, 1 for a draw will be the scoring for all the league nights. And the one difference this year is the top 3 finishers will advance. Second and third place finishers will face off on August 15th, with the top point scorer receiving a bye to Rigoku August 17th. Their semifinals will determine the overall winner of each block to compete in the grand final on August 18th. So pretty much we're sticking within the blocks until we get to the finals on the 18th. And so, yeah, that's our G1 format this year, back to the traditional format. We had a question here from Reddit user I Can Fall Upstairs. Do you think scaling back the G1 feel from recent years is a good move, and what do you think the reasoning behind it is?
I'd rather know what the reasoning behind expanding the field was, like, definitively, because this is the classic G1 More often than not, this has been essentially the format, especially for the blocks. So scaling back from recent years, yes, it's a good move. The G1 is always an exciting time because it's a lot of good wrestling, at least good, minimal good wrestling, singles matches, meaningful, right? So no matter what, if you're interested in a company and they're having a tournament, that's an exciting time, especially the G1 with all the pomp and circumstance. But since the last 2 years have been a little bittersweet in the sense of like, okay, something new, something different, something to analyze in a different way, especially in my role with, broadcast team and stats and info and, trying to correlate and make sense and talk to you guys about all that stuff. And, in 2022, when dudes had like 2 weeks off between matches and nothing made any sense, like that gave us a little bit more to talk about. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, like, of course, and last year with the 20-minute time limits and the 4 blocks made a little bit more sense from a scheduling perspective, but the 20-minute time limit really messed me up, just in general, like how I look at the G1 and the scale of it. And it's like, it was so consistent and so steady. And now I've got this one big like asterisk year. So yeah, I'm excited that we're back down to 20. I think the reasoning behind it is that I think some of these guys held on longer than they normally would have, but there was a pandemic and they felt the company needed them. Guys like Ishii and Yano and Tanahashi, and like, I think they've all still got some gas left in the tank, but I do also think that they were sort of waiting for their moment to step away, and they made something out of that moment this year with the play-in tournament. And I think that's what's so neat, is that they made a little bit of a story out of those guys really exiting the tournament, at least for this year, right? I think there's some juice in like a Tanahashi's last G1 or Ishii's back in the G1, like that type of stuff too, right? So now they've got those cards in their back pocket. But, ultimately, I think the reasoning is that these are the 20 best wrestlers that are available to wrestle in New Japan right now. And I mean that. I mean that I think these are the 20 best wrestlers, right? So take out Yano and Ishii, who we know is banged up. I mean, that's been circulating for years now, that he's so banged up that he's been on the bubble for the G1 roster for the last couple of years. And they finally pulled the trigger on it. And Tanahashi, listen, I mean, the guy's still awesome and he's still great and he can still get a crowd riled up. But do you think he's going to pull 9 great singles matches over the course of a month? I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. Like, it was time. 21 tournaments later. I mean, the iPod wasn't out. The iPod didn't even exist the last time Tanahashi wasn't in a G1. Like, it has come and gone as a very important device in the in the world, iconic even, and it has come and gone since Tanahashi was in a G1. So, or since Tanahashi wasn't in a G1 in 2001. So, I mean, I think that scaling it back is the right move. I think it makes for a nice, crisp, clean tournament, and I have not been this excited for a G1 since probably 2019. I think this is going to be an incredible tournament.
Yeah, those were great points, Chris. A couple other things I feel like could be added to that. There's been a depletion of talent that have gone to work for other companies overseas. Like Chris mentioned, some older talents that have kind of stepped down. And then, for a while there was the complaint that New Japan wasn't preparing the next generation. And, we started to see the first iteration of bringing those guys into the fold and getting them into their first G1s. And now many of them, it's their second G1. Some of them, it's still their first. And this is one of the youngest fields we've ever seen, especially in this modern period of the G1, at least like in the past decade. Plus you have some outsiders and stuff, but there was the complaint when they had the larger field that there were just too many undeserving competitors that didn't need to really be there. And like, had they done, say, the 4-block format in like 2016, that probably would have actually made sense. But it got to a point where like there's just too many guys that were undeserving. And one of the things that has always made, aside from the pomp, the circumstance, the prestige and the stories, the match quality is one of the things that is like what this tournament is known for. And over the past couple of years, while the tournament's been great, it hasn't had that same level of work rate and acclaim for, like, critically. And so now that we've kind of got a younger field, they've kind of trimmed it down, trimmed some of that fat off. It's a lot leaner, and it's looking to be a lot more unpredictable and exciting, and probably get closer back to its roots than it has been the past couple of years.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. And yeah, glad it's back to the format. Agree with a lot of the reasons you guys are saying. And yeah, Josh, you mentioned about match quality. Every year when we're like halfway through the point, it's like, we got to wait till G1 before we really start, locking in what our match of our year is going to be, who our wrestler of the year is going to be. And, for a lot of those awards, like a lot of that stuff's going to come from G1, because normally you're getting your high quality, your top singles matches. You're seeing a lot from the top guys. And so, yeah, last couple of years, it's just not been quite, to the grade 1 level, so to speak. And so, yeah, glad we're back to the 2-block, 20-man format.
I'm tired of hearing from James Boyd, like halfway through the tournament, about how much better the 5-star Grand Prix is than the G1. It's embarrassing. And we need to get back to being the top of the roost,
Yeah.
This being the 5-star Grand Prix that starts in July and ends in December, like the never-ending tournament that's impossible to follow.
I wouldn't know. I don't watch that show.
Jeremy, am I right?
I really couldn't tell you.
It is something like that, though, isn't it? It like just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's pretty long. Actually, I think they're doing a 4-block format this year. So
good.
This is our year, boys.
Well, they were talking about they had that. You guys probably talked about it on the show, but they did have that joint Stardom New Japan press conference where they talked about Stardom scheduling getting like more streamlined, and I do wonder if they'll like really highlight some of those seasonal tournaments that they do now and like pack them into a shorter, like just one tour, because it obviously is a better structure than what they're doing now.
Yeah,
but I'm sure the matches in the 5-star Grand Prix are great. I mean, it's called 5 stars. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Next question from Les Commission 7252 says, to the three of you, is this year's tournament the most unpredictable and freshest one since the likes of Okada, Tanahashi, Ibushi, Ospreay, and Jay White are not in the tournament? I'm having trouble on thinking, will we see one of the Reiwa Three Musketeers be in the G1 finals? Could we see Umino versus Tsuji rematch in the finals? Will Zack finally grab the brass ring? Can an outsider in Takeshita end up in the G1 finals? Or will Shingo end back on top of the mountain since his last IWGP World Championship reign? Also, similar question from @WillProWrestling on Twitter. Is this the most unpredictable G1 since 2019?
I'm glad Les Commission gave us all the scenarios. Wrap up the show. Finish a little bit early here. He painted them all for us. Those are the stories.
Yes, it's probably the most unpredictable G1 since 2019. And as for all those scenarios, I think we're gonna see some of the younger guys obviously mix it up with some veterans, right? But we've lost some of the meaningful veterans in the tournament too, right? So I do think this is a chance to establish just like, what does a G1 look like for this generation? Mm-hmm. I will tell you right now, the people think that Tsuji's going to do well, and the people think that Zack Sabre Jr. is going to do well. Like those are from the G1 Sport of Pro Wrestling Pick'em contest. Like those are the two major takeaways that I am seeing right now with well over 400 entries. So, I mean, that's a pretty good sample size. 46% of people think Zack Sabre Jr. is going to win the tournament. And then what is it? Something like pretty significant percentage thinks Tsuji's second highest at 24%. Wow. So like those are the guys that people think are going to win. There's 3 people in double digits for the winner of the tournament. It's Zack Sabre Jr., Tsuji, and then Shota Umino at 16%. And then everyone else is, less than 4%. So
how many ballots have you gotten in the past, just relatively speaking? Is it around the same amount?
So
or is
I haven't done G1 contests because it was such a pain and we had to code this
we
whole
talk about
thing
it every year and you've never done it.
Yeah, it's like I've avoided doing the G1 because like there was no good structured way to do it that I could like plug and play. So we had to code this whole thing. Jeremy Sexton, my kind of partner in crime at Sport of Pro Wrestling now, he coded this whole contest, and now we are, of course we have a ton of traction on it because the G1 is a hot time. So I think we're gonna break 500 entries at least. I mean, they're still coming in, like literally I'm watching them come in right now. So, which is really neat. And thank you everyone for joining the contest. If you haven't joined it, g1.sportofprowrestling.com. And I'm going to continue to share those types of facts and figures about the contest, sort of like betting lines basically, throughout the whole tournament, as well as just like before the tournament starts, I'll have block winner percentages and stuff like that. So
what can we give you for the tournament?
Oh, as like a winner for the winners. Well, I believe Super J-Cast has offered up some time on their podcast for the winner.
We did that before.
Maybe you want to match that. That would be, we could send the winner on a little tour.
I heard them say it and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that, because I don't want to copy what they did. But we did that remember, Jeremy, we had I feel bad. I don't remember who the winner was that year.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Yeah, it's back when we were trying to do the whole Google form thing, which was a whole nightmare in itself. But yeah, we did that. Yeah, winner can come on. But yeah, I was thinking maybe we throw in like for a New Japan gift card, Tokon Shop global gift card.
We will certainly take all prizes and divvy them out to the couple of winners. So
yeah, one year we did it where the winner came on, and that was cool. They were actually somewhat local. They like came and traveled.
So they drove to us. Yeah.
Yeah, they drove to us and like came into our apartment and recorded with us. But then the next year, the person won, and they were like, "I don't want to be on the show," and we were like, "All right,
that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I get that."
They're like, "I'll take the gift card though." And we're like, "All right, I guess that was a terrible gift. We'll never do that one again." And you know what? I'm just throwing it out there. Like Joel's probably listening. Like, I know you guys offered the time, but they might not want to record with you guys just because we had that before where we were like, you could do a whole episode with us. And they were like, nah.
Well, I mean, who wants to talk about this stuff for 3 hours except us, really?
All right. Well,
yeah. So prize is still TBD. I have some feelers out, but we'll have a plan by the time the tournament goes live.
Cool. Yeah, I think we'll probably throw in for like a Tokon Shop global gift card. Yeah.
Are we able to give people like access to our show, like through Patreon and stuff, if we wanted to?
What way?
Like if
like the winner,
like if we want to give the winner like a year free or something, or 6 months free or something, is that possible or no?
I think we just have to like pay for it on their account somehow. I'm not. I don't know. I can look into it.
I don't want to pay for it. We own it. I mean, I off the record, or not off the record, but like just in general, I was like,
literally recording.
I was like, should we give the access to our Patreon just because it's him? And I was like, but how would we even do that? I don't know.
People don't seem all that concerned about prizes. I will say that because like the wording about prizes on the contest are very vague because we don't really have anything super lined up. So people don't really care. They want the pride and they want that @ on Twitter is what they want. They want that retweet.
Yeah.
I'm on Blue Sky.
Me too.
and tout.
You would be on tout. You still got the account. Still logging in on tout.com.
One thing I wanted to point out though, before we jump into the blocks. So I think we're going to see a lot different style booking from Ghetto and whoever else is involved with the booking committee than we typically would, even in the past with 20-man blocks, because I was kind of looking through the history and I was like, if they did similar tropes to what we've seen in the past, we're going to wind up with a lot of parity based blocks where like 6 guys are all sitting at 8. And it's going to be a nightmare to kind of figure out who the number 3 person is. So you're going to see some wild and kind of different scenarios play out to really determine who the top 3 guys in a block are, probably.
My bet is we're going to have one block where the winner of the block just like buzzes through, like does not have a dramatic match on the last night of the blocks. And then the drama will come from that 2nd, 3rd, 4th place grouping. And then we'll have one block where like everyone bunches together and maybe everyone ties at the top, but they're basically playing they have 3 matches for seeding, right? Like, I think there's a couple of interesting scenarios because winning the block, and I think, obviously we'll get into the rest of the format, but winning the block gets you a bye. And the story has to be that at the end of the G1, you want that bye, right? Like, this isn't one of those stay fresh things. This is one of those wrestle less things. So you have to assume that they're going to play that up because it's a story beat now.
Sure.
And I think that's great. I think it's a really neat format this year.
Yeah, with the A block being so top heavy, I could see that being the block where you have like clear definitive guys who have like 10 and 12 points that are getting through to the semifinals. And then in the B block side, because it's pretty much a lot of people in the B block are kind of even footing, I could see the B block being more bunched up close together. You have a bunch of people who are at like 8 and 10 points all kind of fighting, and it's going to come down to that last night and tiebreakers to like get people through.
Depends. I don't know. I could see either block fitting either criteria depending on who you want to push.
Yeah.
Because the other thing about A block is those top tier, top level guys, they can beat each other up a little bit.
Exactly.
And they can all kind of come down to the middle.
But if you wanted to, like, and I'm just throwing this out there, if you wanted to really make him look good, you could have like a Konosuke Takeshita buzz through the block. And then he doesn't win the block, obviously, but
he could win the block.
He could
knock him out in the semi.
Sure.
Or have I would love, and this sort of part of the question.
I didn't mean I meant like he's not gonna like win the semis.
He's not gonna win. He's probably not gonna win the tournament.
Right.
But I could see him as a Jun Akiyama type in a final.
It is possible, but they've so rarely ever done that.
That would be big. It would be a really big move. I would love it, but it would be a big, bold move.
I mean, the last time they did something like that was Marufuji making it into the top 2 of a block in like 2015.
Yeah. After having beaten Okada, right?
He beat Okada in that block.
In that tournament, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was big, right? And I think Takeshita's that same level. So there's a chance you see stuff like that. Interesting. The outsider booking, I guess outsider, right? Is Takeshita the only outsider now?
At this point.
Yeah, I think so.
Because is Jake Lee, I mean, I see a question coming up here, but is he in? He's in?
he's War Dogs, apparently.
Yeah, this past weekend at the Noah show, Gato gave him the War Dog shirt. He seemed to turn, GLG disbanded. He said goodbye, Noah, and put on the War Dog shirt. And so, yeah, it seems like Jake Lee is now officially with New Japan.
He's officially our dog for real.
All right. So how do we want to break down the blocks?
We'll do it like we do.
Yeah, A block, B block.
Yeah. So we'll start with the A block. We'll start at the top here.
I just don't remember.
We'll start with Tetsuya Naito, his 15th entry, 15 consecutive. He won the tournament in 2013, 2017, and last year in 2023. And he's also the current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. And one of his key matchups will be on July 21st in Osaka versus Zack Sabre Jr.
What was the significance of that match? I'm sorry.
So I just think, there's a long history between Naito and Zack, and Zack's going to want to get a win over the champion.
What were the details? Is that the opener? Is that what you're saying? I missed it. I'm sorry.
No, that's one of his key matches for the tournament.
Oh, key match. Okay, gotcha.
That is his second match of the tournament, right?
Yeah.
It's in Osaka. The last time Naito wrestled a singles match in the G1 in Edion Arena, he got busted up by Zack on the first night of, what was that, 2021?
I think so.
2021.
Is that where he got hurt and he couldn't continue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Naito's Naito's a champion going into this tournament, and normally if it was a different champion, they might be that key candidate. Like if it was Okada, then it'd be like, yeah, I could see them being that guy that kind of goes through the block and just beats everybody. But they almost never do that with Naito. Even in the years where he wins, he's always like an underdog fighting from underneath. He's taking significant losses. I think it's unfathomable with there being a top 3 spot that he doesn't get one of those top 3 spots, being how popular he is, being one of their top stars and being the champion. But I don't think he's going to be, and this is just my opinion, I don't think he's going to finish as the top of the block, the guy that's getting the bye. I think he's going to be in those playoffs.
How do you think he gets? I mean, he's probably not winning the tournament, right? Like, how do you think he gets? Who bounces Naito?
I think that he's going to win, and this is something I said earlier. And I'm trying to recall if I'm saying it exactly the way I said it when we first talked about this, when they announced the blocks. But I think that he will get beat by someone in the block in the playoffs, and then that person will lose to the eventual winner of the tournament. I think all the action is coming from A block personally. So I'm not sure. And then what I think will happen is whoever beat him in the playoffs will be the October title defense that he has.
Sure.
And then the winner of the block will come out of A block. I think it is Zack Sabre Jr. I think that is who he faces in the Tokyo Dome. But I don't know who that person is that could beat him. Maybe Jake Lee, but that's like how many?
I think Jake Lee beating Naito is the lock of the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it sets up Ryogoku, or I guess Osaka. Or Zach wins this, and then doesn't win the tournament, and then they run that back at Power Struggle, and it's just this Osaka thing. They like to put it back in the same building.
I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked by that.
Me too. I'd be shocked with the Zack Sabre Jr. tournament win though.
Yeah. There's also rumors that there's going to be another Royal Quest show in the UK, so you could run Zack Naito title match there. And I think the big story of Naito's tournament is probably going to be setting up challengers for him. Like, all right, who's going to be the people who beat him? I think that Jake Lee could beat him. I could see Zack beating him. I could see Shingo beating him. You can set up a match because they have been doing title matches on these strong shows, so you can set up a match in DC. If they do Royal Quest 3, you can do that. If they do Destruction, Power Struggle, there's several shows that they run during that fall time period that they can set challenges up for.
Yeah. Naito's the most tenured wrestler in this year's G1. Suddenly he's the guy with more G1 matches than anyone else. He's got 118 G1 matches under his belt. He also is entering the tournament on a 6-match winning streak. So I guess it's just worth knowing, right? Because he buzzed through the end of last year's tournament. I don't foresee him challenging that Okada streak record that crossed over 2018, 2019. But I guess it's not impossible. So something to
what is that record?
I don't remember. I think it's 12 in a row.
I wasn't even aware of it. I don't recall it whatsoever. That's an interesting stat.
Yeah. In 2019, Okada broke the record for the longest G1 streak, win streak, because he had, I don't recall exactly the number, but I recall it being a story beat in that tournament. I'd have to go back and look at some of my notes.
I think Naito's extremely vulnerable, and what I mean by that is he's just the kind of guy that could hypothetically lose to anybody in the tournament. I don't see him taking a lot of losses, but anybody that's in the tournament is somebody that could plausibly beat him. The only two people I look at where I'm like, I don't see it is like maybe Gabe Kidd and Cal Newman, and maybe Great Okan, even though Okan's beat him before, but like Evil could beat him, Sonata could beat him, Zack Sabre Jr., like the list kind of goes on and on. There's a lot of,
but in his block, who could beat him, right?
I think most of them could.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
it's just a matter of what Jeremy said. Who do you want to set up future title defenses? And truth be told, I think many of these guys are going to eat at least 2 to 3 pinfall losses, and we don't have enough time between now and January for him to have, unless they change things up, they're probably not doing more than at max 2 title defenses. So even if he loses 3 times, not everybody that beats him is actually going to wind up getting a title shot anyways.
Right.
So
my buddy Jay Michael just sent me a stat, actually, while we've been on the air. Since 2009, let's see, let me do some math here. 36 wrestlers have beaten the champion in the G1. 17 of them have gotten a title shot, 19 have not.
See, wow, and that speaks exactly to what I'm saying there.
Since 2019, 10 wrestlers have beaten the champion in the G1. 6 have gotten a title shot, 4 have not.
Yeah, it happens. I remember like Bad Luck Fale beating Okada when he was champion. He never got a title shot. Stuff like that happens.
Sure.
Big Tom, Tomohiro Ishii, he beat Okada, never got his title shot.
That was a little outrageous, that one.
Still mad about that.
So yeah, I think with Naito, it's definitely going to be a thing of, all right, who are we setting the programs up for the fall? And yeah, you got to think that he's probably going to go 6-3. He's going to get 12 points, which you would think that would be good enough to get you into that top 3 slotting there. So I feel like I was saying earlier, I feel like this is one of those things where we're going to get like a 3-way, 4-way tie at 12, and then somebody's going to get bumped out, and you're going to have like 3 top guys in those 3 spots. But
what do you think the threshold for getting through to those 3 spots is? Like, what's the number? I was
thinking that.
Like, what's the number 10? Of points?
Yeah,
5 and 4.
5 and 4.
I think if you get to 12, you're going.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And 5, you might still be on the bubble. In
right.
5 and 4, you might be the last man out.
That's the bottom of the threshold, is like 10 points.
Yeah. Minimum. So like over under 11 gets you in, right?
Right.
Yeah. And this block, we'll talk about B block. Maybe that may look a little different. This block is more top heavy though.
Yeah.
So I do think all those top guys beat each other up a little bit. They eat 3 losses, maybe each, and it just comes down to comes down to whatever tiebreakers they have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, another guy in this block, also in LIJ, is the Dragon Shingo Takagi with his 6th entry, 6th consecutive. One of his key matches is going to be July 20th, opening night in Osaka against the aforementioned Tetsuya Naito. Obviously, we know their history, being in LIJ, training at the Hamaguchi gym, being friends. There's a lot of history there between these guys. We know that they wrestled, I believe that was the 2019 G1. They had that excellent matchup. So, big matchup here, opening night. I feel like this is like, also we'll talk about the first night, but I feel like upset alert first night. I feel like Shingo could get a big win over Naito on the first night, and I think there are a lot of people who are really clamoring and would love to see Shingo go far, especially in a tournament where the top 3 can advance.
I wouldn't be surprised if the first 2 nights he loses to both Shingo and Zack Sabre, just because Gato loves to book Naito that way.
That's a classic. Yeah. Yeah. In the Sport of Pro Wrestling pick'em pool, let's see, 51% have picked Naito, 44% have picked Shingo, and 5 and some change have picked a draw for that match. And I'm going to save my spiel about picking draws in pick'ems, because the correct answer for how many draws should you pick in a pick'em is always 0. So I guess I didn't save my spiel. I said it. But interesting that half the people think Naito's going to win. The other half, most of them think Shingo's going to win, but there's a lot of draws in there. And I guess a draw, I don't rule it out completely. Especially because they did the draw in the tag match. Yeah.
I feel like this year, especially with a top 3 advancing, you might need that like 1 point different thing to throw things off.
But do you need to draw a 30-minute time limit draw on a match or on a card with 10 G1 matches?
No,
you probably don't have time for that. Like, just logistically, If you're taking yourself and putting yourself into the booker's chair, like how do you create the time for a half-hour draw on night one with 10 matches? Because I'm so excited for these first 2 nights to really set the tone for the G1. But you got to consider that at the main event. If anything's going to get 30 minutes to do it, I guess that's it. But tough for me to book a draw on a 10-match show.
Yeah, unless you're going to have matches go like 5 minutes or something like that. Which
and I'm looking at the card, and like there aren't a lot of matches that look like they should do that.
Right.
So I think it's a pretty good card. It's a card of whatever, 10 to 18-minute matches.
That was something I was wondering about, and you probably already have this stat kind of ready to go, Chris, but like, what are we looking at for like main events? Like who's main eventing this block more so than anybody else? Is it Naito or is...
That's in my queue. I don't actually have that one all worked up. I'd have to look for someone else who has already done that work, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay. I hadn't looked myself, so I was just thinking about it, like if that's something that's going to tell us who's heavily pushed or who's heavily featured, but I haven't.
Well, but that's the thing, is that like that doesn't really indicate anything. That is something I do recall and have worked out, is like you can look at the booking and say, oh, this person's in a bunch of main events. That doesn't mean anything in regards to whether or not they're going to be successful in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It actually may be more of a red herring than anything else, because it's a chance for them to have a good tournament but not succeed, right? But you still kind of want to get them over. So, I think the key stat with main events is that Shota Umino has 0. So what I need to look at, and what's like truly in my queue in regards to like things to look at before the tournament starts, is has there been a block winner that didn't have a main event? And I have all that. You're right. I have all that data. It's between doing the contest and getting stuff ready. It's just on the list of something to look at.
I don't know that stat personally, but I know in some of the other tournaments that Gato's booked over the last couple of years, like some of the Super Juniors, some of the guys that were finalists or even winners did have little to few,
like Teton, right? Like
I don't think he had any.
He probably didn't have any until the knockouts.
And Watto.
Right. And Watto
might have been in that same ilk. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a little different because it's not G1, but it's similar.
Yeah.
I think in 2016, Kenny Omega didn't have a bunch of main events either in G1.
He wasn't really a main eventer yet.
Right.
Right. So if you're using the G1 to make someone a main eventer, then they're probably not going to have those main events in that moment. So I don't look at that and say it's any sort of, it's any sort of indicator. Yeah, for sure. I do feel like what I did see someone had run that, like who had the most main events in the tournament, and it looked pretty evenly spread and pretty traditionally spread out. But the surprise was that Umino was without.
That could be a positive for him, honestly. So
yeah.
I had to step away, so I didn't hear you guys' points on Shingo. The one thing I will say is I get the distinct feeling I think Shingo's gonna have a great tournament. I anticipate him having some good wins and stuff, but I don't think he's gonna be one of the top 3 guys.
I think it's a hot take.
That is a hot take.
I don't know. Like we've seen lots of times in the past where they like to rely on, kind of hot heels like Evil, or even like, Jake Lee fits the bill, and a guy like Shingo gets knocked out. I feel like he could easily be knocked out before getting to those top 3. I feel like there are, with Naito, Umino, Jake Lee, and Zack Sabre Jr. all in this block. That's 4 names right there. Plus, if you really wanted to get spicy with the Evil, I think it's going to be a lot harder for him to get into that top 3 of the block than people are anticipating. Even though everyone wants it, I don't think it's happening personally.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
There's a groundswell for Shingo right now in the pick'em. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's contrarian picks, because I started to post some information about who's getting the winner picks, but I'm starting to see over the last 24 hours or so some hype on Shingo.
Oh, so you did what we do. You started leaking the information and then started juking the stats.
Hey, I'm just a bookie over here, okay? As the bets come in, I change the odds.
Yeah.
Well, next guy up here, the Roughneck Shota Umino. This is going to be his second tournament, second consecutive. A key match for him is going to be August 12th in Nagaoka against Evil. We know that he's kind of been feuding with House of Torture and Evil pretty much this whole year, also feuding with Ren and Rita. So big match up here, finally, able to get his hands on Evil, a guy that's caused him a lot of turmoil throughout this whole year. So yeah, what are our thoughts on Umino in this year's G1?
I hope he's coming in healthy. We haven't seen him since he told everyone he was injured.
Right.
So I'm curious to see
photo shoot.
Curious to see what those first couple of matches look like, just to make sure that he's ready to go. Right, because this is his first. Last year he was in the G1. Sure, it's a G1 with that big old asterisk next to it that said 20-minute time limit, 4 blocks, 6 matches, whatever it was, like 7 matches. Yeah. So this is the first real deal for some of these guys. This is the first classic 9-match, big boy G1. Put on your big boy pants, right? So that's what I'm curious about. I'm curious about how he evolves over the course of the tournament. And kind of that he's healthy coming in. I think that's a big piece. And I must have been on audio with somebody else. I hypothesized that maybe Umino doesn't have any main events in case they have to yank him.
That's what I was wondering too.
Because then you're not depending on him to sell all those tickets as the main eventer, even though there are some matches that you could justify main event, right? But did they hedge that just in case he's not good to go? Which would be smart and it can't be ruled out.
Not that I want him to not be in it, but like, what are the chances? Who would replace him at that point? I feel like you could wind up with like a Taichi versus Yoshihashi play-in. Get in.
That would rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Umino, he did really well last year, and people expected him to be one of the finalists in his block. It didn't end up working out for him that way. And of all the young guys in this block, he's the one that most people have the highest hopes for and the expectations. So it's really going to tell us a lot about how they view him in terms of the booking and whether they're going to give him the big push, whether they think he's ready for it or not. And like Chris said, it's his first real G1, so we're gonna learn a lot here. And he is an outside pick to win the tournament, but I don't think he's an unlikely outside pick. I think it makes all the sense in the world for him to potentially be that guy, because there is a good story there to have him and Naito main event the Dome in a passing of the guard sort of moment. It just depends on if he's healthy and if he's ready, like Chris said. They did a photo shoot with all the Reiwa guys leading into the G1, and they didn't even do one with him. So that was kind of also, eyebrow raising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully Shooter is, 100% coming into this tournament. Because I do think he is, a guy that a lot of people are looking to be the next, face of the company. He's already said in promos that he is the ace of this generation, and clearly, I think it's been set up from day one from him to be the main guy that they push from the Reiwa guys. And so I think this is going to be a very important tournament for him. He's not like it was last year where he's stuck in a block with all his peers. He's in here with some big sharks. He's in there with Naito and Shingo and Zack. He's got a lot of top guys here in this block. Evil. There are guys here that he's really going to have to prove himself against. And I think this is going to be one guy that's going to be fun to watch as far as like how many points does he get in a block like this, and where does New Japan see him at this point in time? Like, are they going to give him? Are they going to go 6-3 with him? Are they going to give him a winning record? Are they going to push him through to the play-in and get him to the semifinals, or is he going to be more of a mid guy? They're going to have him like 4-5 and be 8 points, and then he's still having to elevate his game to get to that higher G1 level.
Well, his only 2 wins last year were against Chase Owens and Gabe Kidd. So if he's going to get some wins this year, he's going to get some bigger scalps. That I have to believe.
Yeah. So next up, we've talked about him a little bit. Jake Lee with his debut entry. Initially, he was announced as a Pro Wrestling Noah entry, but like we talked about this weekend, he joined the Bullet Club War Dogs, said goodbye, Noah. So it seems like he is full-time New Japan, part of the Bullet Club War Dogs, and a key match of him will be August 6th in Corkin against fellow War Dog member Gabe Kidd. We know Gabe Kidd had some strong words for Jake Lee when they were teaming together, good-looking guys and the War Dogs, and I think Gabe Kidd is somebody that people would like to see be more of a leader in the War Dogs, and now you're bringing in a top Japanese guy in the War Dogs who could potentially be another leader or more of a that number 2 over Gabe Kidd. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup there.
Do you guys think he's sort of a weird fit for the War Dogs?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, not a white dude. So, like,
racist.
I mean, truth is the truth. I don't know what you want me to say. Like,
he's not. He is literally not a white guy.
Like, that's just honest. And the rest of them are white guys. So I don't know. It's a strange fit. I feel like that's a weird reverse Kenta booking.
I was gonna say it's giving Kenta.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My spidey sense is tingling on this one.
Also, I've been watching a lot of Love Island, so now I say giving.
That's a good show, though.
It's the.
We can talk about that show off air.
But I only watch UK.
That's even better.
Oh, it's so much better.
Yeah.
This season's been the best. Anyways, Jake Lee, it's funny because we've got so many questions about him, and to me, he is still the most unknown commodity. And on the one hand, I'd like to say that this is going to be the proving ground, and maybe for a lot of fans, he is an unknown commodity, like I said, and it will be like a proving ground. But for those people that already support him, I don't think that this is going to change their opinion one iota, because truth be told, based on all the reports, he's kind of shit the bed in both Noah and All Japan. And there's still that groundswell of support where the people that support him, they don't care. They love him for whatever reason it is. I think it's sort of like when you date somebody for their potential more so than the reality of what they actually are, and I feel like those fans that support him, they see the potential, what he could be. And they're like, you guys just don't see it. It's and maybe this change of scenery and a new coat of paint is going to be the answer. I'm not sure that that's the case, but again, I can't speak with a lot of knowledge. I can tell you what the scuttlebutt is around, the pro intelligentsia. Those people that seem to know have said that, like, this guy, tall, good look, bad facial expressions, fond
of hats.
Yeah, fond of hats, but maybe not the most charismatic, and maybe not the most expressive person out there, and very inconsistent when it comes to great work. So this is an opportunity for him to rewrite his story. How they say, like, control your narrative. This is his chance to control his fucking narrative. And, like, what better place to do it than the G1? If he wants to come out here and show the world why he deserves to be a world champion in New Japan, this is his opportunity. But I'm placing
this man's been trying to get into the G1 via the Japanese press since 2020.
Right.
Maybe 2019, but definitely 2020, when he was like, oh, y'all need more?
He backdoored his way in, and
he's there.
Yeah.
He's in.
He's got Tony Khan to thank for that. It's true.
In a couple of different moves, I guess you could say. Created some space.
Well, we had a lot of questions here for Jake Lee. Let's run through these.
I'm not able to answer all of them. I just kind of wanted to put the disclaimer out there to let him know, like, I don't really fucking know. Like, these are my thoughts. You guys can ask your questions, but.
Well, Doc in Discord says, with Jake Lee finally being given the official War Dogs and saying goodbye to Noah, how far do you think he goes in G1? Before this, I had him in my semis, but they must have big plans for Big Jake. Have you guys been able to accept the good-looking Emperor yet?
I'm curious.
I think it's plausible he winds up in one of those top 3, but it's a stacked block, and it's not a lock.
Yeah, I'm willing to still see more. I've still had a very limited experience with Jake Lee. I mean, he hasn't knocked my socks off so far yet, but I think, again, this is going to be, like you said, Josh, time for him to kind of prove himself, see what he's made of. You know, I looked at his cage match, and also he has a lot of good matches with guys like Kento Miyahara, who's great. So if he, and you know, obviously it's Kento Miyahara, so if you can have a great match with him, he has some great dance partners here. He has Zach, he has Shingo, Gabe Kidd. There's some great guys for him to work with here. So
none of those guys are Kento Miyahara.
Shingo,
he's close.
He's up there.
I love Kento. My dream is to have him in a G1 just once.
That's the guy, right? He's the guy that's still out there that hasn't done a G1. I was saying before this whole thing happened with War Dogs that Jake Lee beating Naito was the lock of the tournament for me, because it just felt so obvious. He lost the United Japan match. He beats Naito in the G1. They run it back in one of the big fall shows. Naito gets his win. Naito, beats him for the title. And everyone moves on with their life. But now that he's in, I guess in New Japan, it's kind of still a little convoluted. We're still not exactly sure that he's like a New Japan signed roster member. But now I'm a little less certain of that, because I don't feel like it's a give back booking situation. If he's a New Japan roster member, they can just kind of do what they need to do with him.
Yeah, but I see the flip of it. I think they're more willing to push him because
there's that direction too. It could go either way.
Because he's not Noah, and they mistreat Noah, and now that he's not Noah, they have more skin in the game, so there's more incentive for them to actually give him the push. If they actually, this will tell us what Gato and the rest of management actually see in him, if they think he's worth doing that for. But the one reason that I think he's more plausible about going into the blocks, or to what are the terms we're using for the top three? What is that called? The playoffs?
I call it the knockouts.
Okay. I could see him going to the knockouts, but then you have to think, he already faced Naito at the United Japan. They're going to fight each other in the block. Then if they go to the knockouts, I could kind of see a potential for them to fight a third time and then maybe a fourth time in October. That's kind of overload for that feud. That's 4 times in the same calendar year.
But I don't think that's out of the question with how they typically book. Specifically, Naito's year.
I'm not
Naito almost always has one of those trilogies. You could probably go back years and find that every year Naito has a key trilogy like that.
I just don't love the idea of them wrestling 4 times in key spots, but no. I think it could happen, and that's the reason why I feel like him going to a block playoff or a knockout is more likely, because he's tied to Naito right now.
Yeah, I think a big key is going to be whether or not he comes out with Gato every night. I think we've seen a lot of Bullet Club guys when they come out with Gato. That's kind of the guy that's kind of pushed. We saw that with Clark Connors and Super Juniors, or he started coming out with Gato. Also, we've seen that with Finley, Jay White. Gato kind of has a guy that he's backing. Obviously, Okada, pre-Bullet Club. So I think that if every night he's coming out with Gato, I think that's a sign that he's getting a heavy push in this tournament. That's
a lot of towns for Gato to make, because you figure he's also going to be with Finley.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is he going to be with Jake, or is he going to be with Finley? I think we're going to see.
Is Gato traveling with Walker? He's making all the towns.
Are they not?
Are all the guys? Is everyone on every show with the tags?
Yeah, I was going to say, aren't they doing undercard tags?
Yeah. So maybe.
Plus, he's a booker, so you think he'd be there anyway.
He's just got to tell you what's going on. Is he the booker?
I don't know. Maybe Kikuchi.
This is not the show to answer that. We wouldn't know.
A lot of big changes been happening. Yeah. A lot of big changes been happening.
Next question here from SadGoal8860 says, Lee vs. Kid will be the first War Dog on War Dog match since they formed. How do you think this will go?
I think Gabe Kidd's just going to run rampant and just have a match.
I
think he's already said that, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's going to do the crazy shit he always does, just like any other Bullet Club member he's ever faced. Plus, Jake Lee's not even, I guess he's in the War Dogs, but he's not even really an official form.
Isn't Gabe already talking smack about Jake Lee not being a real War Dog? Yeah, they've already started it.
Yeah.
So, Gabe Kidd's the guy to have guys get in there, other Bullet Club guys get in there, because he doesn't care. His character, he's a madman. Have you heard? Like he doesn't care that you're in the same unit. He just wants to beat people up. Like, which is like classic New Japan. So none of this shenanigan, like I'll pin you and then we can have a little, schmaz match thing. Like they're just gonna beat the hell out of each other. It's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, I can see him. Yeah, he's just gonna be Gabe Kidd, and I think it's gonna be kind of like I was saying earlier, kind of fighting for that slotting in the group, and it being a guy that he didn't really bring in. So I think that it's gonna be interesting, and I think he's gonna treat him like anybody else. Next question here, After Triangle 720. Is it too late to trade Jake Lee for Jack Morris?
Why?
I don't know. I don't watch Noah. I heard Jack Morris is cool, but I don't need him. Also, you skipped a question.
Stone Cold Bob Saget. Given that Jake Lee looks to be joining NJPW, do you not agree that it's ridiculous that they let Tadasuke in good-looking guys?
Can we just talk about the username here?
Stone Cold Bob Saget.
That's tremendous.
That is a good one.
I'm picturing a bald Bob Saget with a beer.
I don't really watch Noah, but I like Tadasuke. I don't get why people hate him. I think he works really well. He's a good worker.
But is he a good-looking guy, though?
Aren't they all ugly? Isn't that the...
Well, I was going to say, wasn't that the bit that they're not?
I feel like Jack Morris isn't he like, quote-unquote good-looking?
I mean, anyone who's walking around in a, tights and without the shirt on is generally good-looking, I think. Like at least, a 5.
At Reese W. Hayes on Twitter says, with Big Jake becoming the latest war dog, does that increase his chances of doing well in G1? Does he make the playoffs?
I think it does, but I also think they book outsiders relatively strong usually. Like Kiyomiya last year was booked relatively strong. So that would be the comp this year. But I think now that he's kind of in, I think Josh said it earlier, like you're more likely to see what they actually want from him. So, yeah. I hope so. I want them to book people strong. I want there to be people that are in the mix that you think could always win a match. So I would like for the new guys to win some things. That would be helpful. Not burying your new talent is always good. Not yet. Give it time. Bury them later.
Barry Wall says G1 Group A is looking very hard to figure out with Shota, Zach, Naito, and now Jake Lee. I'm struggling to see which 3 go through. And do you think Jake is coming in to be second fiddle to Finley, or do you see Finley leaving New Japan in the new year and Jake taking over Bullet Club? He just seems like an odd fit in the War Dogs in their current format.
I think that's an interesting observation, and it echoes some of the stuff we said earlier. But if I were a betting man, I would just kind of say that he's brought in as like a red herring, and he's going to find his ultimate placement in either a different group or forming his own group. Hypothetically, if you think that he's big enough of a name to lead a faction, but I don't really see him being a long-term fit for Bullet Club War Dogs.
I really feel the reverse Kenta thing happening here. Comes in the Bullet Club, and then like he doesn't perform in the G1, and Finley knocks him out, and then we get a program, right? Which would totally make sense because then that's the program for the global title, right? Mm-hmm. Set up, because Finley doesn't really have anything set up, besides what gets set up through the G1 maybe. But I don't know. I think that G1 final, that G1 final night, I'm going to have piqued interest in whatever Jake Lee is doing.
Let's move on to the next guy, Evil, leader of the Bullet Club House of Torture. 9th entry, 9th consecutive. A key match for him will be August 8th in Yokohama against Shingo Takagi. We know, obviously, the whole LIJ history, and there's a history of Evil stopping Shingo from advancing in tournaments as well. So, obviously, very storied history here between these two guys.
I think, with Evil, as well as Sonata being like the 2 former world champions who are in this block along with Naito, and they're all part of the greater Naito verse, just being ex LIJ guys. There's going to be a lot of interconnected stories there. Part of me originally did think like maybe Evil could be one of those sneaky top 3 guys, but I feel like they don't need him to really facilitate that role as much because they have Jake Lee and he sort of is that Bullet Club representation type of deal there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Evil has a more muted tournament than he's had in the past.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like an Evil down cycle year. It doesn't feel like you need Evil for that last block night heat. Actually, now that I say that, I wonder what his last block night is, which I can look pretty easily. It is Amino. So he's probably in the mix on that last night, on that last A block night.
Well, like we said before, I think it's going to be easy for them to hypothetically get several people all in play for the final night just because. Did something happen with my camera?
I don't know. We're all frozen, looks like.
Oh.
Josh, you're moving again.
Just because, everybody is potentially going to have very close point totals. There's no reason that he couldn't be in play on the final night or even be a spoiler or something like that. But I don't think he's realistically going to get through, even if he has a strong tournament.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't feel like an Evil centric tournament. They basically told us that they're not going to do that right now for a little bit. Yeah. Like Tanahashi was like, hey, if you didn't like House of Torture, I've got good news for you. We don't either. So we're going to try to make a move there. So yeah, Evil's tournaments are actually always really interesting though, just because I'm fascinated by the heat booking, right? And like who gets the rub, right? And this year it looks like Amino might get the rub of vanquishing Evil on the last night, which I think is cool. But yeah, I mean, Evil, he's gonna do his thing. He's gonna do his, shenanigan based wrestling mostly, I think, but I do think it might be toned down a little bit, and I have some hope that he's not really a factor going into that last night.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that there's not going to be a heavy focus on Evil this year, and it does kind of seem like he's just kind of been muddling around the mix. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a win over Naito, because again, they could easily do a Naito Evil title program, or just kind of, like you mentioned, Josh, he's in that kind of LIJ verse, so to kind of just do something there with Naito in this block and potentially down the line. But throughout the block, I don't really see him getting very far. I mean, there's a lot of guys in here. I mean, also he could always cheat and win, but I feel like with this block being so top heavy, I have a hard time seeing him get through to the knockouts. So moving on.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I'm someone who has traditionally liked Evil's booking, like tournament booking, because it's just always so clear to me that he's going to get bounced at the end. So, I am curious by the kind of vocal downcycling that he got from the Tanahashi press conference, basically. So curious to see what it all looks like. That's all.
Yeah. So up next, Great Okan, fourth entry, fourth consecutive. He is the provisional KOPW 2024 champion. Key match for him will be August 8th in Yokohama against Sonata.
Well, there's been so many years where people have said, this is the time, we need to find out, blah, 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 Okan. I think this is the year where it's like, there's no discussion to be had. Like, we know what Okan is. It's like set in stone. And if it weren't, then he would be in the B block where he actually stood a chance to potentially stand out in some regard, but it's not happening in this A block as stacked as it is. I wouldn't be surprised if Okan is like a bottom of the rung guy in this block, honestly.
It's his fourth G1. He's 8-13 in his first three, so that 381 winning percentage. No really humongous notable moments to speak of. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we just sort of know where they're putting him right now. And I don't know if I see a way out of that. I mean, on the greater scale things, just beyond this G1, like I think we have to accept what Great Okan is. And that's, it's a little bit of a bummer, but it sort of just is what it is. So yeah, I mean, I see him middle bottom of this particular block. I have a tough time picking him to win hardly anything. I know he'll get a couple wins, but like I have a tough time pinpointing any of them being meaningful.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be the bottom block guy here. I mean, he could end up being like 3-6 in this block. I could see him not getting a ton of wins here.
I think Callum Newman's going to beat him.
They're in different blocks.
Oh.
No, they're in the same block.
They're in the same block, I thought.
What am I looking at? I'm looking at the wrong thing then. Oh, I didn't have the last guy on my list here.
Wow, that's embarrassing for you, Chris.
This is a list I made before everything was done. My bad. I also think Callum Newman's going to beat him.
Yeah, I don't see. I think Great Okan's going to get pretty beat down here in this block.
Don't tell Gideon Gray that though. You should see his entry into the G1 pick'em. It's a thing. I posted it to Twitter if you want to see it.
I'll have to check it out. Next up, Gabe Kidd with his second consecutive, and he is the NJPW Strong Open Weight Champion. Key matchup for him will be in Hiroshima, July 23rd against Shota Umino.
That will be a key matchup.
Why is that a key matchup?
That couple of young guys sparring.
Well,
putting their hands up, putting their hair up, and squaring up.
Oh man, Gabe is going to be full of piss and vinegar. I think the key for him is actually going to be at the press conference. That's going to be one of the highlights of the entire time, even before the tournament starts. I don't know what to expect in terms of performance. You would hope that him being the open weight champion would result in some sort of elevation. I don't realistically seeing him having a possibility to be a top 3 guy, but I'm a big Gabe Kidd supporter. I love his act. A lot of people don't for whatever reason. I still kind of can't totally fathom that, but there's a lot of interesting matchups for him. And I think we've sort of been waiting for him to spread his wings a little bit. And he wasn't totally given that opportunity being placed in that young A block last year. So for him, this is kind of similar like what we said about Umino, where it's like his first real chance in a real G1 to show what he's made of.
And I think Gabe has hit a stride really in the last like 3 months when he started to come out with the robe that says Madman on the back. Like maybe he doesn't have to tell us he's a madman every 10 minutes now. So like we have that going for us because now it's on the tights and stuff. But like ever since that, God, what match was that? Was that the Never match?
Mm-hmm. Or he challenged Shingo.
He feels, yeah. He feels 100% put together, right? He feels like he is found what this persona is, and like it's not as annoying anymore. Like it's he went to 100 and he brought it back down to 80, and like that's the right level. But I do sort of hope that they continue this G1 story that like Gabe Kidd is his own worst enemy, right? Because I think that's a long game to play as you build towards this guy potentially having some sort of babyface turn at some point. Like keep letting him get into his own way, DQ finish, stuff like that, like really kind of interesting versions of like a DQ finish or a count out or a double count out. Like he's a guy that you can tap in to balance some points in those wacky ways, in creative ways, because he's still a generally like young, creative guy making a name for himself in this industry. So I do think that he's someone whose matches are worth checking in on because they might end in interesting ways. So I'm curious to see where he goes. I don't think he's really a factor to go into the knockouts, but they do like to send a surprise through. You know, I mean, last year Hikuleo got through, so never rule anything out.
Yeah, I think with Gabe, we could see a similar maybe thing with like we saw with Tama Tonga in like 2018, where it could be more about him progressing his character than actually picking up wins. And we've kind of seen this now in a lot of his matches where he's doing a lot of brawling, a lot of stuff on the outside. So he could be a guy where he gets DQ'd, he gets counted out, and that's how he ends up with a lower point total, but he's still kind of being the madman, having these rough, aggressive brawls and not necessarily caring about winning, which, I mean, obviously you should care about winning, but as far from a booking perspective, it could be more about let's get the madman over than we're actually pushing him to go far in the tournament.
Yeah, I think what you guys have said is plausible. I'd like to see him move away a little bit from some of those tropes from the last year, but it doesn't mean that they will, so we'll see.
Yeah. And next up, Zack Sabre Jr. with his 8th entry, 8th consecutive. A key matchup for him is going to be August 3rd in Osaka against the Dragon Shingo Takagi. We know their history, lots of great matches, especially when Shingo was IWGP World Heavyweight Champion a few years ago. So, Zach, you were mentioning, Chris, Zach, a heavy favorite to win this A block and win the whole tournament.
Yeah, heavy favorite to win the tournament based on the picks here. A block, I have that too, I think. Give me one sec. I had to go kiss the baby goodnight. A block, 39% of people think Zach is winning the A block, like winning the A block, not necessarily even just going through. And 46% think he's winning the tournament. So he's a factor. I don't know. I obviously I didn't hear what you were saying, but I have a tough time putting him at that level where he's winning a G1. And maybe that's a me thing, but is he Kenny Omega level?
Right. Well, let me put it to you this way, Chris. New Japan isn't at the level it was when Kenny Omega won the G1. So I feel like the environment has changed along with the potential of this guy being the guy. And I think it's more plausible now than it ever would have been any other time with the dearth of stars that they have and this transitional phase that they've been in. I feel like now is really the only time that they have to pull the trigger on him if they really, really want to do this. And if they don't, then we know that they don't.
Yeah, I agree. If it's going to happen, it's happening this year.
Yeah, I feel, unfortunately for Zach, I think it's kind of weird timing for him. Because I feel like it's a time now where we need to kind of push the young guys. And I also feel like he is kind of deserve his due as well. Like, I do feel like he is, also one of the top workers, top stars. He's been living in Japan. He speaks the language. I think he is a foreigner that you can get behind and elevate and push and win the G1. But we're at this kind of pivotal time in New Japan where we need the younger guys to get over. And so do you sacrifice a year of not pushing a young guy to the finals and winning to give Zack Sabre Jr. that moment and to bring Zack to the Dome? You could, but is it more important to have Shota Umino win the G1 or go into the finals? I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to watch with the booking. Also, another hard thing here for me, and we've talked about this on the show the last couple of weeks, I still think it's weird to have the winner come out of the same block as a champion, especially with this whole knockout format, because you could potentially end up getting like 3 Zack Sabre Jr. Naito matches by the time this year is done. And then also for it to do it in Tokyo Dome, it just seems like too many rematches for a match that you're going to main event in Tokyo. I know it's a Saturday, but I still would want to have a somewhat fresh match for that main event. So that's why I'm really hesitant about saying Zach's going to win, because I don't know. I still feel like that winner is going to come from the B block.
The last time the winner came from the champions block was 2019 when they did Ibushi. When Ibushi beat Okada at the end of the tournament, and then they didn't have to do the They obviously and then it got muddied with the double title thing.
Double gold dash, yeah.
Yeah. Which is a whole thing. And who knows what that looks like. I don't think they're gonna do anything like that this year with the AEW show on the 5th, but or the whatever super show on the 5th.
I think a couple things to consider. Number one, if you see a match with two big stars, like for instance, like you just gave us, Jeremy, Zack Sabre Jr. and Naito. If you see a match like that during the block round and it plays out in a way that you wouldn't have normally anticipated it playing out, like a double DQ, a flash finish, anything like that, that might be a key indicator that these guys are going to wrestle again, either in the knockout round or post G1.
But they usually bury those on the weird kind of mid-tournament shows.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are usually not. I mean, that's night 2 with Naito.
Well, I think the reason that it's more plausible is this three person block. It changes the dynamics a little bit there. The other thing too is, for instance, if you did want to do, and this goes along with what I think is happening. If I was the booker and I wanted to avoid giving away the Tokyo Dome match 3 times, I want the winner to come out of A block. I just do the block match, and then these guys never touch in the knockout round at all. I work the scenario so that they're not involved with one another at all, and then the next time they wrestle is in January, and that's probably the best way to get there. And you just kind of treat Naito's knockout round as the October title defense setup. That's and I'm not saying you're wrong, Jeremy. You could be right. I mean, historically, the B block or whatever block the champion's not in is, usually the winner. But I just think personally, I think that now's the time for them to go with Zach. I also don't think it really is detrimental to the young guys, because if you're going to put one of them over and make them headline the Tokyo Dome, you got to really be sure about that. You have to know that they're a proven commodity in every facet and that you're ready to put the rocket on them and have them go. And we've talked last week about the limitations with Naito. I think whoever faces him in the Tokyo Dome is probably beating him. And I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just what I think.
I think it's really dependent on who it is, and it is a pretty wide open field.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just think that it makes sense for him to drop the belt in the Tokyo Dome, and there's no reason that in the process of trying to get over all these young guys, there's no reason you can't have a Zack Sabre Jr. act like a Terry Funk or a Stan Hansen and be that top gaijin who facilitates the transitionary period for these guys.
Sure. Naito and Zack is not the main event of night 2. The main event is Tsuji and Finlay, just so that's out there. So I guess in a way that is unfeaturing it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Maybe that's also telling us they don't see it as a main event for the Tokyo Dome, and it's just, that's the giveaway as well, possibly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what Zach's contract situation is either. So if he's got some time on his deal, I mean, you got to figure he's one of those guys that they've got earmarked as at risk. Like, we need to figure this out or know that he's going to make the jump, right? I mean, like, it seems so obvious.
And how do you play that? Do you put the title on him potentially, or give him a G1 win or whatever it is, whatever push you deem, and then risk having him signed to Tony Khan or, less likely WWE?
Yeah.
Or do you say that if we don't utilize him, we're going to lose him?
He's going to go. Yeah.
So it's hard to tell.
It is. It's really hard to tell. Like, and I know, and I think you guys know as well as I do, that Zach's a great fit in New Japan, and he's a great fit living in Japan and all this stuff. Right. And he talked really eloquently during the Forbidden Door press conference about the freedom he has wrestling in the way that he does and the career that he's been able to have. So I don't necessarily point to Zack Sabre Jr. and say, like, this dude's definitely jumping, but it's got to be back of the mind, right? You got to consider it. And I want to be clear, like, I would love a Zack Sabre Jr. G1 win. I just know that putting a foreigner in in the G1 winner slot is a really big deal, and they really need domestic stars right now too.
Right.
So, it's not like he's coming in to face a young incumbent champion and he's kind of the long-term, foreigner that's coming in as the foreign heel. Like, he would be, he's not like, Naito's going to be the biggest star in that match, no matter who you put against him. So I don't know. Tough to say. I would love it. I think if I was booking it for my friends in the West, and honestly, probably most of the people in Japan would love it too. And I think it would make for a great main event, but he's a factor. I definitely want to see him in the final, right? I think like that's the other play, is like maybe he just goes to the final and gets caught. Or maybe he wins the thing. I don't know. I mean, the people in the, mostly in the United States that are signing up for this pool, United States and Europe, are mostly picking Zack Sabre. I mean, there's a lot of Zack Sabre Jr. picks for winning the G1. So I think the booking has to honor that. Even without, they're not going to look at the pool. Well, I shouldn't say that for sure, but they're not going to change anything because of it at this point. So I'm curious.
So next up here,
one last thing I will say, he can talk as eloquently as he wants about his allegiance, but at the end of the day, he's a
how eloquent is that paycheck?
he's a Carney pro wrestler. They can say all they want to say, but at the end of the day, they're professional liars, and you just never know.
Well, moving on to the ninth guy in this block, Sonata, leader of Just Five Guys, with his ninth entry, ninth consecutive. A key match for him will be July 29th in Fukuoka against his former stablemate, Tetsuya Naito.
Sonata was the champion during the last G1 Climax tournament. Believe it or not.
He was.
This man held that belt for like the whole year last year.
He was undefeated in his block.
He sure was. Sonata, he's kind of just a guy now, right? Like,
yeah,
he is just, what a fall from grace.
If they want him to go through as a block guy, it's not unfathomable, but I think it's so unlikely.
Yeah, if I were them, I use him to get other people over. Like you have a Shota Umino beat him. I would be cool if Callum Newman beating him. Use him as a former world champion that can help. Beating him helps get other people over.
Yeah,
a lot of talk
say about Sonata. Yeah, who hasn't said what you could say about Sonata?
Yeah, well, I guess let's move on to the last guy here. Number 10, Callum Newman, with his debut entry. He won the A block qualifying tournament to get into the G1. A key matchup for him is going to be July 23rd in Hiroshima against Zack Sabre Jr., also with Callum being Will Ospreay's protege. We know the history between Will and Zack, and so some of that will kind of play in here when he faces Sabre on the 23rd.
So, Chris, you've been listening to the show. My question to you is, what do you think about our rationale about these young guys being put in after having won the play-in tournament? And do you think that it's necessary that they have key wins or have, respectable records coming out of that?
I don't think they're in to get goose egged. And that's how a lot of people are seeing it. They're saying like, oh, he's in, he got in, that's his achievement. I don't think that's it. Not the way they did it. Not with the guys that they went over to get in there. Mm-hmm. Him and Oleg. I don't think they're in there to get goose egged. I don't think they're necessarily going to have strong tournament. Right. Specifically Callum. Like, I think Callum's going to be towards the bottom of this block. I do think that, but that doesn't mean he's getting goose egged. I think he's getting 2 or 3 wins. And not like banana peel. I think, keep an eye on his Corkin, right? Keep an eye on those kind of that first night. Keep an eye on that first night, because I forget who he's got, but always a chance for that big upset, and he's one of those guys. But no, I think the way that they put them in knowing that they need some young blood, I don't think they're in here to eat a bunch of losses. He's not a replacement. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a replacement guy that's coming in because someone got hurt. Like, he was put into this tournament.
First night he has Umino.
Okay, so that's upset special right there.
That would be so crazy.
That would be awesome. And that should be a good match too.
Well, I think it's a great scenario because you have Umino coming back from injury. He quote unquote might not be 100%. And we know Umino has lost to Will in the past, and Will could teach Callum all the tricks to beat Shooter, Oscutter 1, 2, 3. Callum could sneak one here.
I'm in on that. That's how I book it.
Interesting.
And then he's a player, even if he doesn't win, he wins 1 or 2 more matches, right? Then he's a threat. So I think that's really interesting booking. But yeah, I think he's here to get a couple wins. I don't think he's and honestly, I think he deserves that. He's an interesting wrestler, but I'm curious to see what these 9 matches look like. This is going to be a really great experience for him. I'm excited. I'm excited just that he's in the tournament. I just think that that's such neat booking. And how they got there is so great. So he's a guy, you know, I think there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm just going to watch the stars this year or whatever, watch the guys that I really want to watch. Like, he's a guy that's on my short list.
Who's saying that?
I lurk. I'm around.
You're in some weird circles there, Chris. I'm only with the diehards. They're talking about Jake Lee. That's who they're talking about.
I'm in all the circles, Josh. I'm omnipresent.
All right, guys, let's jump into the B block here. First up, the Gene Blast himself, Yota Tsuji, with his second entry, second consecutive. He's the 2024 New Japan Cup winner. A key match for him is going to be night 1 in Osaka against Konosuke Takeshita.
One of my most anticipated matches of the entirety of the tournament, and it's happening on night 1. And it's going to, I'm sure it's going to be great. I don't want to hype it because Takeshita has had some really great matches this year already. So maybe the potential to be in that same upper echelon, but Tsuji's, again, he's the counterpart to Umino in the other block, where when you talk about Reiwa guys that have high expectations to do well and go through and be like block finalists, he's one of those guys. You know, it was pointed out to us recently that nobody has ever won the New Japan Cup and won the G1 in the same year. And the closest thing to that ever happening is when somebody wins, like, say, one or the other, but in other years. So like someone wins a G1 and then wins the subsequent New Japan Cup the following year. So, you know, the chances that he wins are unlikely.
I feel like Goto did that.
I know Okada did that, and I got confused.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okada's done it for sure.
I think so. I said this somewhere else. Every big New Japan star sort of gets a thing, right? Like a thing that's very unique to them, something that they did. That's like, oh, he's the first guy to win 3 G1s in a row, or oh, he has the longest title reign, or oh, everyone's got a thing. Tsuji's thing could be winning the New Japan Cup and the G1 in the same year. I mean, that's a pretty big thing. I would be thrilled. And what a push, right? Like, he's winning the Tokyo Dome then, right?
Oh, he's got to beat Naito.
You got to win then. If Tsuji wins this tournament, he's winning that title in Tokyo Dome, and he's your new guy. And honestly, if they're going to go that hard with any of them, he's probably the one. All that said, I still don't think they're going to do it.
I don't think so
but
either.
Damn, it would rule.
I just, it seems like they have him as more that Masahiro Chono, Tetsuya Naito, dark ace sort of guy, the always second banana sort of thing. But things might change because there's a lot of upheaval going on in New Japan right now. And, I'm ready to say it. Like, the Umino, I don't want to say it's been a failure of an experiment, but it hasn't panned out the way that they've wanted it to in the time span. It's not to say it still can't, but like everything is together for Tsuji. It's all right there. You could see it. And it doesn't take a blind man to see that. So I would love, I mean, if the one thing that is giving me pause about Zach winning the tournament is kind of some of the things you guys have said, like he's in the A block with the champion, makes it unlikely. How many Gaijins have ever won a round robin in New Japan history? You're talking about Hogan, Andre, and Kenny Omega. Like, are we?
What a list.
Are you ready to put Zack Sabre Jr. in that list? Like, I don't know if they are ready to, but if you were like, we got to have a young guy and he's got to be Japanese and he needs to work for our company, then like Tsuji might be the guy, but they have to have faith to do it. And I hope that they do. I would love it, but then
there's the weird LIJ thing again.
Oh, that's what makes it beautiful.
Not a problem, not an actual problem. Like I live for it, but
and maybe that's the whole reason why they did that whole 6-man tag because they're starting to do this whole teasing of LIJ versus LIJ. Hiromu wants Naito. Obviously, Tsuji will want another crack at Naito. Even Shingo Naito in the A block. So maybe this is going to be the theme of the fall and the winter is LIJ versus LIJ, and maybe we're gonna get a Shingo Naito title match in the fall. Maybe Tsuji wins and he's challenging at the Dome. Maybe Hiromu does beat Hanare and get the Never title, and we do Hiromu versus Naito at some point. Like they could do some cool stuff.
How sick would
some really cool stuff? Yeah.
If Naito's final 3 title defenses in this reign were Shingo, Hiromu, and then Tsuji in the Dome, that would like.
Well, it's sort of how the last reign started.
It'd be so great.
But Shingo never got his shot. Shingo never asked for his shot, but Shingo never got a shot. So that's why Shingo is interesting to me. It's because he never got that shot on that last reign. They got sidetracked. And obviously they haven't done the Hiromu thing. So Tsuji's an interesting case. I'm for it.
He's my favorite out of this block, and there's very few people that I see that I think could plausibly win the whole G1 and headline the Dome. But the fact that he won the New Japan Cup this year and that he already had a failed title shot against Naito this year are the 2 things that give me pause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This block, top 3 via the Sport of Pro Wrestling Pick'em pool. David Finlay with 29.9%, Takeshita with 28%, and Tsuji with 26%. Everyone else under 6% to win the block. So I have to assume that those are the most likely, the better's 3. So yeah, Tsuji third on that list though is interesting, but I think a lot of that's because Takeshita's here. And those guys, I feel like those guys are likely to have some sort of trilogy. If Tsuji's not winning the tournament, I think one of them wins night 1, one of them wins in the knockout to knock the other one out, and then they run it back at Wrestle Dynasty, which would be sick. Because I'm under the perception, and I've been told that people in AEW see Tsuji, or maybe they've been told that Tsuji is sort of the next star.
I just worry that Tony Khan is going to see him.
Tony, he loves Tsuji.
Yeah,
he said it on some sort of call. He was like, "I'm so excited. We have Tsuji this year." And I was like, "Wait, you know who he is? He's only been wrestling for."
I don't always trust when he says stuff like that, though. You know what I mean?
Sure, but either way, I think that may be the lane more than anything. So because it's enough separation, then you get the playoff match. You know those guys can go. You know Takeshita is going to be booked strong. I don't know. He's an interesting case for sure.
How sick would it be if Tsuji loses to Takeshita now first night, and then he ends up in like number 2 or number 3, gets to the final, and it's him and Takeshita, and he beats Takeshita to go through to the finals, and that'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And then even if he loses the final, at least he was in it, which is there's something to that.
If he finals, he needs to win.
Yeah, if he loses the final this year, I mean, if you're going back in time to kind of classic New Japan booking, he loses the final this year and he wins the tournament next year.
It could happen, yeah.
Yeah, I would love.
Unless you're like Will Ospreay.
Well, you know.
I would love the G and G1 to stand for Gene Blast this year.
Can the G and G1 just stand for grade? Can we be done with the G and G1 standing for things? It never works out well.
True. We answered Rambone's question here about somebody winning New Japan Cup and G1 in the same year. We had a question here from Trish from the Trish and Sarah Wrestling podcast here on the network. It says, if Zach beats Naito, does Tsuji win the G1?
I guess I would need to kind of ask her a little bit more information because I'm not understanding that logic there. Because even if Zach beats Naito, there's the potential of them meeting up again in the knockout stage. So I don't think that's necessarily a full-on definitive deal. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. If we were doing a traditional just the winner of the block goes through, then I could see a situation where, all right, Zach beat Naito, he gets to the final, so he's going to lose and get a fall title match. But because we have this knockout round, yeah, he could beat Naito in league play, end up facing Naito again in knockouts, and that's a second matchup. So
I'm assuming she has a little bit more thought behind that scenario. I just don't have it spelled out in my head, so I'm trying to connect with what she's asking, but I don't see it at this point in time right now.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next guy, David Finlay, the IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion. Third entry, third consecutive. A key matchup for him will be up against the NJPW World TV Champion, Jeff Cobb, August 10th in Sendai.
It's his third G1.
It is indeed his third Grade 1 Climax tournament. Do you guys think David Finlay was supposed to win the New Japan Cup? And then he got sick or hurt?
I don't know. It was all the way back in like March. So,
but that factors into the Tsuji conversation too, because if Tsuji was a replacement win and he was keyed to win the G1, they're just going to have him win the G1 then.
Yeah,
I feel like Finlay was going to the final.
Yeah,
I don't know if he was going to win it though.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to put your tinfoil hat on, you can, and kind of line up with tea leaves and be like, oh yeah, well, Finlay was definitely going to win, and kind of the whole story. Like, I think if you truly believe that, it's definitely plausible. It's obviously it's hard to know.
The final was not meant to be Goto and Tsuji.
Right. We'll never know unless we get a hold of Gato's notebook.
And even then, I can't read it.
Gene Blast and Goto was much better than the David Finlay final could have ever been.
I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. And I was very pleased with the outcome, but there might be something there. But also, like, I think we've maybe all forgotten how strong David Finlay is generally booked right now. So he's a factor here.
I think he's going to be booked very strong. I think he's going to wind up in the block finals, but because he's the global champion, the chances of him going through is probably null and void.
Sure.
Yeah, I could see him at least being like A2, A3, getting into that knockout round, and then losing to whoever he faces and not getting to the semifinals.
The only other thing I could see happening is he's booked really, really, really strong, but there's a few people booked really strong, and he comes close to getting into the block finals, but his next challenger for the title, like, I don't know, let's say an El Phantasmo or something like that, beats him, spoils him, sets up the title challenge, and he just doesn't wind up in the play-in rounds, but he, still has the similar point total to the, 2 and 3 guys.
Yeah. We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. Do you think the company will give David Finlay the Jay White treatment by putting him in the G1 finals? I don't see him winning the finals or even going to the final 3 in his block.
That could happen.
Yeah. It's not out of the question.
But he's a white guy, and they don't do all white finals. So if he's going through, Zach's for sure not winning the tournament. And then you're probably looking at him in what, Umino, I assume?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
What if Naito
Yeah.
wins?
Just goes to the final.
No, what if Naito goes to the final against him and then wins the tournament?
Actually, that's a good question. Let me see what I can. Let me give somebody filibuster for me. I want to figure something out here.
Why? What are you looking up?
I want to see how many people are picking
Naito?
Finley and Zach.
Oh. I think a lot of fans probably will, because I've seen people be like, I came up with Finley and Zach, but then I realized they're not going to do an all white final. And I mean, they're never going to do that. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I don't imagine that at all.
Yeah, that would be very hard. It's either going to be one of them. And again, Finley is the global champion. So I don't think that you're going to get him going through.
Tell that to the 12% of entrants of the Sport of Pro Wrestling G1 Climax 34 Pick'em that have selected the all-white final of Zack Sabre Jr. versus David Finley. That's a lot.
I know it is, and that's
a lot.
I've seen that quite a bit, and I understand the reasoning behind it. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that either guy ends up in the final. It's just they're not going to do Finley and Zach because they're both white. They're both Gaijin. They're not doing that.
I thought the most common final that I had been seeing was Suji versus Zach. But that's only at 10%. So it's a little less. This might actually be the most common final that people are booking is Finley versus Zach. And I think
it's not happening.
That is absolutely not happening.
Yeah. Huh. Sorry, guys. There's probably like 12% of you out there.
I mean, there's quite a few people. 12% of a lot is kind of a lot. So there are going to be some people that are not pleased with this information. By the way, you can go change all your picks at g1.sportofprowrestling.com pretty easily. So
that's like around 50 people.
I recommend it. It's and ever growing. Wow.
Yeah, people need to remember it says New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah. God, I wonder what this pool would look like if I localized it to Japan. I should try to do that.
You have the ability to do that?
Yeah, you just change the language.
Oh, I thought well, what I meant was you can see who's entering the stuff from different countries.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice. That's
yeah. We're data farming here.
Moving on to the next guy, Hiroki Goto, with his 17th entry, 17th consecutive. He was the 2008 G1 winner. A key matchup for him will be August 14th against Hanare, the Never champion. We know Goto's history with that title, so obviously a victory over Hanare could get him back in contention for the Never title.
Yeah, I think that's kind of going to be the realm of, goal for Goto in this tournament is trying to vie for either like a TV title shot or maybe the national or whatever it's called, the global title, trying to beat one of these champions because he's not going to end up in a top 3 situation. He is there to have great matches and to perform. And say what you will, the A block is filled with a lot of top names, but I think the B block has maybe more potential to have great matches, and Goto is going to be a part of that. But ultimately, what he's looking to do is beat a Hanare, beat a Jeff Cobb, or beat the guy we just talked about, David Finley. Like, get one of those title shots down in the pipeline so that he has something to look forward to. Also, he's not tag champion right now, right?
No, TMDK are the double tag champs.
And they're not in here, so that's a non-factor. Okay. Right. So yeah, that's what he'll be looking to do.
Also, I think he'll be looking to get a win back over Suji. Like we mentioned that New Japan Cup Finals, he was trying to win that for his dad, and so I think there'll be some revenge there on his mind and wanting to upset Suji in this tournament.
Goto is actually the most experienced G1 wrestler in the tournament. I think I misspoke earlier. Naito was the most experienced in the A block. Goto, 133 matches. I mean, like, that's quite a few. So he's up there. And rumor has it he politicked his way into the tournament. He was, in theory, in the Yoshihashi spot, but unconfirmed.
I mean, how could you not put the New Japan Cup finalist?
It does make sense. I'm just saying, it's out there. People are talking.
Some of my favorite wrestlers were some of the greatest politickers of all time, so I don't care.
Yeah, no, please, politic more. It's way more fun for everyone.
Yeah, I don't see Goto going very far here. I think, like you mentioned, Josh, he's going to be trying to pin one of these champions. I could easily see him being a fall challenger for a Finlay, for a Hanare, for a Jeff Cobb, which he's all had great matches with in the past. And so, yeah, I think he's going to be trying to get one of those wins and trying to beat Tsuji. But again, I think with him being an older guy, again, with this changing of the guard, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him go like 4-5 or even 3-6 if they're trying to really get some of these younger guys over in this block. So speaking of a young guy in this block, next up we have Sold Out Ren Narita with his second consecutive. A key match for him will be July 20th, first night in Osaka against Big Bolton Oleg. We know the war between Hantai and House of Torture has been raging, and so it's going to be interesting to see kind of where that plays out with Bolton, where he gets pushed. But that'll be an interesting match for him. But what do y'all feel about Ren Narita in this tournament this year?
Ren is sort of interesting. His tournament last year was not all that notable, but he started his tournament with 2 time limit draws. Then he lost 3, and then he won 2. Like he won his last 2 matches. So I don't really know if that informs anything this year. Ren, in his interview with NJPW 1972, was talking about how this is his first real G1. So he was trashing the 20-minute time limit and everything. So I got mad props for Ren Narita for speaking up on that. But I don't really think he's going to be a factor, and I don't really know what he's going to set up. Maybe the TV title, because that's kind of where he started. So maybe he beats Cobb. He's got something to do afterwards in the fall and take it from there. I do wonder how much House of Torture shenanigans he gets versus Evil, right? Like, who gets the priority on the shenanigan stuff? Who's in his corner?
Allow me to put my WeWork stiff hat on and talk about the character motivation.
Are we going to be here for another? I don't know if I got time for the WeWork stiff hat.
No, I'm just playing. But I have noticed that there is a divergence between Ren Narita, being a shit-eating heel and with all the shenanigans. And then sometimes he still goes out of his way to try and still have an entertaining and, competitive matchup. So it's going to be thanks, Dan. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what basically which Ren Narita is showing up night after night and what the trajectory is, because he's not going to be a guy that's in play going into the block finals. Like you guys said, he is probably going to be looking to hunt for a title shot with the champions in his block as well. But it's going to be interesting to see if we get a mix of competitive Ren Narita or if he's just going to be doing shenanigans the whole time and character work, and just kind of see what is he going to make of this tournament, because I get a feeling we're going to get a little bit of that already in the other block between Jake Lee and Evil and maybe even some Gabe Kidd. So, is Ren Narita just going to kind of continue some more of that trend, or are we going to see him break out a bit, kind of give us the goods?
Yeah, and I think too we're getting to a point now where a lot of these young guys, like, they need to kind of be elevated to kind of lead their own stables. And so I would love to see a guy like him break out of that whole House of Torture and start his own thing up and lead his own faction.
You're jumping the gun, Jeremy. That's like 5 years down the road.
Also, I know it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but I feel like that's where he should be. Even if he sticks with the whole being a heel thing, like, I think you could do a similar gimmick with a different faction. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be doing the push-up bar thing every night, or is he going to, like we mentioned, Chris, you mentioned that interview and him kind of knowing the importance of a G1, is he going to kind of put that Son of Strong style hat back on for this tournament to kind of show what he's made of and get further into the tournament? So moving on, we have Henare, the never open weight champion, third entry, third consecutive. A key matchup for him will be July 31st against Yuya Uemura.
Henare is, I think, gonna use this opportunity as being a champion to kind of try and really make a name for himself and solidify himself in this tournament. I think there is a possibility that he still eats a good number of pinfalls in the tournament. I don't see him being like a block finalist or anything, but with like Ishii and guys like that out of the tournament, there's probably like a bit of a load on Henare to like be that standout guy in the block who can have the hard hitting matches and entertain the fans and kind of go on that level. And I'm hoping he rises to the occasion. That's probably what they're looking for out of him.
Why is Uemura the key match here? Is
Yeah.
that a well? I have some thoughts. I just want to know if they're aligned with why we've chosen that.
Hold
Jeremy
on.
picked it.
Jeremy, Mr. Notes.
I pulled these key matches from NJPW1972.com.
Okay, I thought that might have been what you did, which is fine.
I thought you picked.
No, I did not.
Which is
pick these.
There's
matches.
nothing wrong with that. My thought is Uemura has shown this desire to be like a wrestler's wrestler through the KOPW thing, and like the Never title might be Uemura's lane for that. So I am curious about that. I'm curious. I'm most curious about Henare's matches against Bolton Oleg and Yuya Uemura.
All right, here's what it says about Yuya. It says Yuya challenged the then never champion Shingo Takagi before Henare back in May at Resurgence. Though a classic grappler by style, Uemura has an appreciation for the hard-hitting style Henare brings, and this July 31 clash, we'll see an intriguing styles clash that could see a new contender emerge.
So basically what I was hypothesizing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious as to what Henare does with a 9-match G1 run, right? Like what's his arc? What does that look like? What's the long game story? He is champion, right? And there's a bunch of dudes in this. Most of this block could be a never title defense later. So I'm curious to see where that lands. The never title holder is not typically booked super strong through the G1. They usually are middle of the pack. They set up 1 or 2 key matches, so keep an eye on the more highlighted matches to see where the never's going to go. So maybe it is that Uemura match. I would love to see a Bolton Oleg defense. That would be tremendous.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Henare is more about who he's against, and I think he's going to have some matches that people think are the best match of the tournament or the most interesting match of the tournament, and he's going to have some matches that you forget, before the bell even rings at the end of them. I think we're going to get a mixed bag, but I'm more curious about the booking against the younger guys or the newer guys.
He was able to get a 2-block G1 under his belt before they switched the format, right? His first G1 was a 2-block. No,
he was 22 and 23.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so he's never experienced a full on,
like a full classic arc 9-match kind of story beat. So curious what he does with that. I love Henare. I think he's a tremendous wrestler. I think he's bold, and I think he's driven. So I'm very curious to see what a traditional G1 arc looks like.
Yeah, the reason I was asking that, I was trying to see if kind of where he landed points wise before that, but yeah, it's gonna be difficult to kind of compare a 4-block to a 2-block point.
Yeah, it's so messy.
Yeah, but I would say that he's probably a 10 points max guy. Like he's probably gonna go 5-4, maybe even 4-5. It's really depends on how many challengers you want to set up for him. But yeah, I think he's going to be, like you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of eyes on him to fill those Ishii roles and to go out there and have those great matches.
I went to the bathroom so that you guys could speed things up a little bit without me. You're still talking about Hanare. Like, fuck.
Well, we can move on to the end.
Chris shakes his head in disappointment.
We can move on to the NJPW World TV Champion Jeff Cobb with his sixth consecutive, according to NJPW1972.com. A key match for him will be August 4th in.
I like that you're crediting it now.
Against Hanare.
I thought Jeremy just had a lot of insight, and I was like, man, Jeremy picked key matches for each of these guys. It's crazy. Oh man.
Cobb should always win the first 8 matches of the G1 and then get bounced. Like that, that should be just pen it in for every year he's in the G1. It's such good booking.
I'm sure he agrees.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, he's like, I don't really want to do the final thing, but yeah, I'll take those 8 wins and lose in the last night or whatever. He's a guy I think should get into if you want a dark horse coming through into the final 3. He's my pick.
That's what I was gonna say too. I think that he probably won't end up there, but there's no reason he couldn't end up there.
I mean, Hikuleo made it out of the block last year.
You keep going with that. It's a different scenario altogether.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all I'm saying is don't rule anything out because bold decisions are made sometimes.
The Tala Tonga go through. They can let Cobb go.
That's unconfirmed. You don't know if that's his name yet. He hasn't debuted.
I hope. I have so much hope. I've never had more hope about a name.
Jeff, I mean, a lot of what this block is represented, like what's awesome about the block is just the great matches that are and the great matchups that are on the docket. And Jeff Cobb is one of those guys that's going to be performing at a top level night after night. He's got a lot of great dance partners, and I think he's going to be one of the better performers in the block.
Yeah, he should have a lot of really fun matchups. And again, we can set up some TV title challengers for him. Chris, you mentioned, Bolton being a good challenger for Hanare. I think Bolton challenging Cobb for the TV title could be cool. I'll see guys like Uemura and ELP could be good challengers for Cobb. So, yeah, should be a pretty fun tournament for Cobb.
I think it would be cool if like most of Cobb's matches were under the 15-minute limit.
Yeah.
And then the one guy that he like, if they're going to go with like a big title defense coming up and that guy beats him at like 17 minutes or some shit. And it's like everybody else lost in under 15 minutes, but the one guy who beat him couldn't make it, couldn't beat him under the 15-minute time limit.
Yeah, that could be a cool story.
I know. That's why I need the book.
You don't want the book. The book comes with a lot of emotions.
Up next, Bolton Oleg with his debut entry. He is 1/3 of the Never Openweight 6-man tag team champions, and he won the B block qualifier tournament to get into the G1 proper. Key matchup for him is going to be August 7th in Corkin against TV champ Jeff Cobb.
That's gonna rule.
Maybe, I don't know. Like
oh, come on, Corkin.
I hope it is. I hope it rules.
Have some
I've never seen a single match from Oleg Bolton that I thought ruled yet. You know what I mean? I'm not saying
I don't. I love him. I think he's great.
No, I love him too. I love his gimmick. I love his work, but we've never seen a singles match where I was like, that just fucking, rocked.
Give me 9 minutes
just
of Oleg and Cobb.
Throwing clotheslines.
That's gotta be good.
I'm not complaining, guys. I'm just saying, like, this is going to tell us, some things. And one thing that I've heard a few people make this point, and it runs counter to, because I've been saying that I wasn't sure if he was ready, and I've been saying that for a few weeks now. But a few people out there have said, like, at a certain point, you just kind of got to throw someone out there and see if they sink or swim. And like the way you get them ready is by just putting them in pressure under fire situations. So even if Oleg Bolton isn't ready, this is how you get to that point, and I think that it's going to be really exciting. one thing I'm looking out for, and what I think kind of makes his situation weird, is because he's like graduated, but he's not really graduated, yada, yada, yada. If he comes in with the optics of a young lion, even given his wins in the play-in and even given his status as a champion, I think the potential for him to eat a lot of losses is still there. But if they do some form of character graduation, give him like a color to his gear or put him in a singlet or some shit like that, that would be like the notification, like, all right, we're giving him some, we're giving him something in this tournament, which is what I hope they do.
Yeah, he's the same as Callum for me. Like, I don't think he's here to lose 9.
Right.
You know, I think he's in there to actually win way more than we think he's going to. Like, in general, like we being the collective.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is he has Hanare on the first night. So that's a perfect, I think, opponent to come out, do a new gimmick, debut, music, singlet, beat Hanare night 1, gets him a never title shot in the fall, and then, yeah, really just have him wreck shop in this block.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's key. Another TV title or a never title. One of the singles titles, I think, one of those two, I think, are perfect fits for his next thing. Also, the never keeps him sort of in that never world. Maybe they are trying to redefine that.
Yeah,
we'll see. I'm very curious about his tournament.
Yeah,
and I'm very curious about his first night. Does he come out in different gear without the Young Lion song? He's got to, right?
I would hope.
They should. It would be a smart decision.
Tailor made for it. This is that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He doesn't even need like a gimmick. He just needs like different gear and a song.
Yeah.
Like he is a gimmick. Like the man's existence is pro wrestler gimmick. Like he doesn't need the lone wolf Bolton Oleg. Like he's just the man.
He should wear a singlet, but not like the U.S. style singlet. He should wear like the old 1980s, like Soviet style singlet that like splits in the.
I mean, he's from Kazakhstan. I mean, it would line up.
That'd be sick.
It would be awesome.
Or you can have him come out there like a Zangief, and like they're all red.
Well, if you're gonna have him come out in all red, he might as well just do a Brock Lesnar cosplay. Just come out in the red and the white. You know?
Yeah.
He wore a singlet for his first New Japan match.
Yeah. It was like the NJPW like team singlet or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was at the Dome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's a special guy. Let's go. Let's give it now. We don't need no mucking that up. Let's go.
All right, up next from AEW and the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita with his debut entry in the G1 Climax. A key match for him will be against Yuya Uemura, and that's coming from the UJPW show where Konosuke pinned Uemura in that multi-man tag in that main event.
I think his key match is all of them.
Yeah. On the one hand, I would somewhat complain about the idea that it's like, okay, he's going to be protected because he's an AEW guy, yada, yada. But he's Konosuke Takeshita. He's like arguably the most talented performer in the block. And honestly, maybe an argument for the entirety of the tournament. That's how good he is. So he's going to be, I'd be highly shocked if he wasn't the standout performer in the B block. And I'm just really excited. I think he is going, my prediction is I think he's going to be the block winner and be the guy with the bye by the end of it. But I think he gets knocked out before the finals.
I'm not ruling out him in the final.
No,
you're right. Like he is that level of talent and star power where like, I don't care that I'm a New Japan homer and he's a AEW and DDT guy. Like he's a very special talent. So let's honor that one way or another, put him into some spots where he can make some other guys look good and also just like be awesome. So, I mean, like when I heard that he was the AEW rep, I was thrilled. And it takes a lot to get me like excited about something like that. Like if it wasn't to Danielson, like give me Takeshita and I'm a happy man. Like that's a good move. So no notes if he goes undefeated through the block. I wouldn't even have any issue with that. I don't see anyone on this list that I'm like, nah, they can't put him over them. Like everyone on this list, I'm like, yeah, you could beat him.
It's not even outside of the realm of possibility that he wins the G1, although I find it highly unlikely. But if you did put him through to the finals, where like you mentioned the Jun Akiyama thing where he fought Tenzan, and what was that, 04?
3.
03.
Yeah, 03.
They haven't done something like that in 20 years.
But man, that building was hot. It was so good. But here's the thing about 2003. I don't know how this correlates, and maybe you can help me. That was the youngest G1. This G1 is the youngest G1 since that one.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that there seems to be similarities from like that time when like you started seeing like the new age Musketeers enter the G1s around that time frame. And there was like that crossover from the Enochiism guys and everything. But what I was going to say is if it was me and I was going to either put Shota Umino or Zack Sabre Jr. and have them win the tournament, I'm looking at everybody that's in the B block, and I don't think that I don't want to bury anybody else, but I'm saying if you wanted to have someone from the A block win and you wanted that final win to mean something, I don't think there's a stronger person you could have them beat than Konosuke Takeshita. I mean, because like, let's just say it is Zach, right? People are kind of like, yeah, we believe in Zach, but we don't know if we see him as like the main eventer for the Tokyo Dome. But like, what would a Zack Sabre Jr. versus Konosuke Takeshita G1 final look like? And how strong would that like make him coming out of that situation,
Yeah, that would be incredible. And I think, if it is a guy like Umino, you have him as the main like flag bearer for New Japan, beating this AEW and DDT guy and really kind of standing up for New Japan. I think that solidifies him in a very big way. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely a chance for Takeshita to get to the finals. But the way I'm booking it, I'm kind of like with Josh, where I would have Konosuke go to that semifinal spot, and I have him beating Tsuji on night one, and then I would have Tsuji work his way back to face him in the semifinals, beat him to the semifinals to get to the B block, to win the B block and get to the finals.
I agree.
Let's see, we had a question here. Death Triangle 720. How would you feel if Takeshita beat Hanare or Cobb and then challenge for their titles?
Sure.
That'd be fine. I don't think they'll do that.
Maybe Cobb. But I don't know why.
I think it's unlikely.
Yeah, I don't know why. Takeshita's a top title kind of guy in Japan.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, global, maybe Finley.
Yeah. The Finley thing would make a lot more sense, but he's a 5-time KOD open weight champ.
Like he's a big get right now.
Yeah. Rambone Slam Pig says, I assume Takeshita will get some favorable booking based on his affiliation with AEW, given his prior history with their talent making and JPW appearances. Controversially, has anyone who was still contracted to DDT ever made a deep run in a New Japan tournament? I believe Ibushi and Omega were both signed with New Japan prior to making significant runs. Is that accurate?
Yes, and they had pretty strong runs through tournaments that they were in, be it Super Juniors or G1. So, yes, it has happened.
But like Kenny got signed outright and was no longer with DDT, but Ibushi was dual signed for a while.
But he was definitely seen as a DDT rep though.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But he had dual contracts and he did well in the G1 and went deep, as a dual contracted guy. And he also, like you mentioned, Chris, he did well in what's it called? Super Juniors. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, we got two more guys to talk about here in the B block. First, Yuya Uemura making his debut entry. Key matchup for him will be August 10th in Sendai against Yota Tsuji, a fellow generational guy there.
Back to the Tsuji Uemura stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious what his first G1 looks like, especially because he's sort of on a he needs to get onto a path where he has sort of some direction, right? So what direction will he end up setting or getting set for himself? He's my guy. He's our guy, right? We have that moment, the three of us,
Yes.
where he got that pin in Los Angeles, and we were like, we're doing it. We're not. We haven't done it. So I want this to be a big, meaningful tournament for him, but he feels a little lost. You know? I don't think he's a lost cause, but he feels a little. He's flailing in the wind.
I was really into the Narita stuff before his turn, but there were so many people that thought that he was characterless and aimless and, just a cosplayer and yada, yada. And for better or for worse, they switched his gimmick and everything and kind of changed up character and everything like that. And I'm kind of feeling like Uemura might be bound for a similar fate, just the way that things are going. Like, at some point, something's got to give or kind of change. And with that being the case, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a similar G1 to the kind Narita had last year, where like he does some losing, he does some winning. He's a middle of the road guy. Right now, I do not see him as someone that's gonna. I think the best hope for him is like a major win over some bigger stars to kind of solidify him, and hopefully maybe some sort of like salient story that makes people invested into him and kind of sees character growth, because as it sits right now, he's looking like a middle of the road guy.
Yeah, there's definitely needs to be some kind of a change with him, because I don't know what it is. There's been some kind of loss of, it seems like charisma, direction. Yeah, they cut the hair and
I feel like his hair's grown back really quickly. I don't know.
It has, yeah.
I've never cut my hair that drastically, so but this man has hair again.
Yeah, well, yeah, he needs to do something, because pre the haircut, he was on a great track, and since then, things he's kind of just been kind of bumbling around. He had the whole KOPW thing with Ocon, and so I think they definitely need to kind of establish a direction for him in this tournament. I think a great thing would be to have him beat one of these champions. He can beat Cobb or Hernare or Finley to kind of get him in line and get him push going. It might be cool to kind of see him in the Never kind of realm. I know he's more of the grappling type of guy, but I think facing Hernare could force him to wrestle that more hard-hitting style. Then last but not least, we have the headbanger El Phantasmo with his third consecutive. And the key match for him will be August 14th against David Finlay. And obviously, we know their history with Bullet Club and bouncing ELP out of the Bullet Club. So very personal matchup coming August 14th.
So I didn't know that they fought each other on August 14th. And I don't know if that's the final night of block action, but I'm assuming since August 18th, your birthday, Jeremy, is the block finals, it's probably the last night.
It is.
I could see him beating David Finlay, being the guy that could, and preventing Finlay from being one of the block finalists.
That's interesting. And then it sets up a global match.
And I didn't even know that they were in that scenario, but it just, when I look at the field, who could be a guy that could do that? That's it. Because here's where Phantasmo is one bad G1 away from being in the same situation where next year we're looking at him and we're talking about him like he's a Ocon, where we're like, oh, well, it's just not going to happen for him. This is just where he's at. So he needs something big to happen here. And I think that's his spot, because he lost the Bullet Club. Now he's lost the Tongans. He's just, a man without a home, and he needs something here. And I don't see him being a block finalist. He needs to beat David Finlay on that final night and get David Finlay out of the block knockouts entirely. And get the title shot. A lot of people listening are probably going to run and change their ballots now.
Yeah.
I don't think David Finlay's getting into those block finals.
Half the pool has, that's a real tight split. 50.48% have ELP winning. So whatever, 48.5 something have Finlay winning. So of that particular match. So some people are seeing that. Some people are definitely seeing that, but on the bigger scale of it, people should see the opportunity for ELP to knock Finley out of the play-in altogether. Even if ELP is just playing spoiler and not going through himself.
Yeah, that's what I think's happening.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll have enough points. I think he'll be good, but I don't think he's going to get into the blocks himself. But he'll wind up with the title shot coming out of it.
Yep. I love that.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think him challenging Finley in the fall for the global title would be a great spot for him and kind of a good way to kind of fight. He's mentioning the ghosts of the past. He's selling all of his Bull Club merch right now, and so he's really trying to move on, kind of establish himself. So I think beating Finley would be like a great nail in the coffin of that whole Bull Club past and history, and getting the global title could be a cool thing for him.
Yeah, that's good. Let's do that.
All right, we have several questions here. Some of them we might have already answered just in general about G1, so we'll run through these and get ready to wrap things up. So Reddit user JaceK2002, if there is one result you can decide in G1, what would it be? So, for example, if you want ELP in the Never Title picture, you pick him to beat Hanare.
That's a cool question, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm all in on this ELP beats David Finley sitch. So I'm going to just run with that.
I mean, if there's one result that I could realistically go with that I don't think is going to happen, I'd have Tsuji win the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I do. I think another thing I'd like to see is Shingo beating Naito to set up a world title match in the fall. I think would be cool.
Sure.
Wukong 901, if you had the book for G1, who are your 6 that are advancing? On top of that, who do you think will pin which respective champion to have title matches later on in the year? For example, I can see Yuya pinning Cobb for a TV title match.
That's a little bit too much booking for us tonight. We've talked about a lot of this, but I will tell you the 6 that I think are going through. I think in the A block, we're going to wind up with Naito and Jake Lee and Zack Sabre Jr. And then in the B block, I think it's going to be Takeshita, Tsuji, and Jeff Cobb.
I was wondering who you were going to have sneak through.
I'm a little torn on that one, but yeah, maybe him. It could be anybody really, but maybe Jeff Cobb.
Yeah, someone's got to sneak through in that B block. I think if we want that ELP Finley scenario to play out. My 6, I think A block. I think we're gonna get Naito, Zach, Umino, and B block. This is off the top of my head. I have not booked this. I have not entered the Sport of Pro Wrestling G1 Climax pick'em.
You will, right?
Of course. I'm not eligible to win though. B block, Takeshita, Tsuji. Phantasmo. I think that last win actually does push him in, and then
pushes him in.
And then he gets bounced. But I do think there's an actual push to make Hantai a strong unit. So, and that's where I see guys like Oleg Bolton and Phantasmo having a good tournament.
Okay.
For me, A block, I'm going with Naito, Shingo, and Zach.
Classic.
And B block, I'm going Tsuji, Takeshita, and yeah, I think I'm going to go with ELP as well.
Let's speak it into existence.
Yes.
Some very similar predictions from the 3 of us here.
Yeah. Death Triangle 720, if you had to pick 2 of the young guys to have in the finals of G1, who would it be?
If I had to pick just 2 young guys in the finals, it'd be Umino and Tsuji.
Yeah.
Does Takeshita count?
Yeah. I was wondering that. I don't know.
I would go Takeshita Umino.
Yeah, that's a great one too.
For a final that could actually happen this year.
I kind of, even though he's young, it's been wrestling since he's 16. I don't really count Takeshita. A 5-time world champion.
He's 28. I mean, he's
a 5-time world champion.
he's not. He's the second youngest person in the B block.
Just that great.
Yeah, he's young, but he's got a lot of road miles on him.
He's got some miles. So he's ready for that jump.
Yeah. Do you think the G1 final should have title matches on the card? For me, I feel like the G1 final is a pay-per-view for the company with the finals of G1 main eventing. But instead of just multi-man tags, we cut down 2 of them and have 2 title matches on the card.
Yeah, if you want like junior title match and like a tag team title match.
I like that the G1 final is like the important thing about the G1 final night. Because you get a ton of, it's almost like New Year's Dash. You get a ton of angles going, everything's an angle going forward. Mm-hmm. So you've got like this one great show that New Japan does, which is really New Year's Dash like, because you don't really know the card until the night before either, right? It's not like, it's not, Mystery Vortex or anything, but it's close. And then you've got the G1 final, which is just, it makes that match a bigger deal to have just that match be the only like featured match. So, and I'm a proponent of the G1 being a huge deal, because I think ultimately it's having a G1 win is right up there with winning the IWGP title. Yep. Like it's same level. And whether you take that and you win the title with it, whatever. But winning the G1 is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. In some cases it's rare.
I mean, most cases.
Yeah.
Josh said I would be fine if they did like a junior title match or a tag team title match, some titles that we're not seeing in the tournament, just to kind of build that card up. But yeah, I think definitely the focus should be on the G1. He also asks, who do you think will have the most drip in the press conference for the G1?
Man, there's not really anyone that's really standing out to me with this.
Zach always looks great. Phantasmo always looks great.
Phantasmo's always got a vibe, yeah.
Yeah, no Ishii and his undershirt blazer combo.
I'll be watching to see what Jake Lee's looking like that night. What was that, Thursday night?
Probably, yeah. I mean, Sonata's gonna look great.
Suji's got a vibe.
Sonata's probably gonna be the best dressed guy.
Yeah.
Easy.
And its last question: what do you think will be the biggest upset win of the G1 this year?
You guys have listed quite a few that I was like, man, this could be shocking if it happened. So I don't know, but the tournament is rife with potential for lots of them.
I think any win Oleg Bolton or Callum Newman gets, and I do think there will be quite a few.
Yeah, I like that Callum Umino upset we booked earlier. That could be fun.
That might be the youngest. Callum versus Gabe Kidd. I'll have to look into this. Might be the youngest G1 match ever.
Nice.
I got it. Now I got it. Damn, I got to add that to the list. Got to do some math.
Doc in Discord says, which of the under 30 guys goes the furthest? And what about the under 40?
Takeshita could easily be the guy under 30 that goes farthest.
Yeah.
Suji
will turn. I believe Suji turns 30 during the tournament.
Under 40, I got Zach. I think he's winning.
Yeah, under 40, probably Zach. Yeah, under 30, I gotta agree with Takeshita. But if we're talking about like the New Japan under 30 guys, I think Shota.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
I think
if he's healthy.
Things are quiet around Shota right now, but I do think I think he's the G1 guy, whereas Suji's the New Japan Cup guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if you really want, that was the other thing that I hypothesized, is that like maybe this year a bunch of guys under 30 win all the big tournaments.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like the slow, so we'll see.
All right, we answered this question from Discord Daddy already. Move on to Dark Soldier. Maybe it's blind optimism, but with Shingo losing the Never Belt to Hanare and having a spotlight match against Danielson and Forbidden Door, could there be a possible chance of Shingo winning the G1?
Hikuleo was a block finalist.
It's the thing I'm going to say for years to come. For as long as I do this, I'm going to be like, in 2023, they put Hikuleo into the knockouts.
They put 3-time WWE champion Tala Tonga.
And
man.
Andrade was the youngest G1 competitor ever.
He won't be after
Sure
this.
thing, Grandpa. Let's get you to bed. Anything can happen. There is, like I said, there's a little bit of a groundswell for Shingo right now. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what's going on, but people are starting to talk that Shingo might actually have a lane to this thing. I don't really see it, but I'm not out on it. I mean, you could always run the LIJ member wins tournament, turns on Naito thing.
Yeah.
Takagi-gun.
You could also do a Shingo Tsuji finals if you want to continue to LIJ.
That'd be so sick.
That would rule. God, that would
That'd be
fun.
such a good match.
That would be so fun. That's too much fun. We can't have that. We have nice things again in New Japan World, so we can have nice things. We just can't have that one. That would rule.
Yeah. Reddit user Red Bear Hughes says, what will be Callum and Oleg's biggest wins? I can see Oleg beating Hanare for a never title shot, and I can see Callum screwing Gabe out of the finals on the last block night. All right. I don't know what in the world just happened, but my camera went out. My mic went out. So, yeah, good thing nobody is currently on the live stream, but don't know.
I was wondering if anyone was on the live stream.
Don't know what happened there, but Chris had to go. In case you guys didn't hear that, Chris had to jump off. There are tornado sirens happening right now where he's at, so he had to jump off, and then we're having all kinds of technical difficulties here tonight as well, but it's all good. We'll keep rolling on and answering these questions.
Let's power through these ones. It's getting...
Yeah, we'll wrap up with the G1 questions, and then we'll pretty much push everything over to next week.
Okay.
So let's see. Next question here from Barry Walsh. With so many...
We actually never answered Red Bear Hughes' question. We were in the middle of answering it, and then everything dropped.
Okay. So yeah, what do you think? Callum?
I think I love the idea of Callum Newman beating Shota Umino on the first night as being a potential upset. That's one that's really cool sounding, and I don't think a lot of people thought of that. And then with Oleg, man, I don't know. Like there's so much potential there, but like I would love if he beat Jeff Cobb and got a TV title shot.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think him beating Hanare night one is something that could happen, and him getting a never title shot. And kind
the
of
only problem is we're booking a lot of upsets for night one, and like they do them, but they're not going to do as many as we're saying they're going to.
Yeah. All right. Next question here from Barry Walsh. With so many open weight belts available, should the junior champion be given a G1 spot each year? If they ended with 3-6 or 4-5, but beat a few heavyweights, it means they can go open, more believable, and might create some new stories. Any takes?
I don't think being the junior champion should automatically qualify you for being in the G1, especially considering it's back to a 20-man field, and that's pretty tight. But I'm not opposed to them having juniors in the tournament. They've done that several times in the recent past with Shingo and Will Ospreay, and was Hiromu in one?
No, not a G1, no.
No, but El Phantasmo was. So they've done it quite a few times, and I would love if it could be like a Desperado or like a Hiromu or something like that. That'd be sick.
Yeah, it'd be cool. And we've mentioned several times that Hiromu and Desperado are top stars and are guys that should be in more open weight positions. Let's see, at North Trader 87, of all the younger guys, who do you think will go deeper in the tournament? We kind of answered that already. Yep. Rambo Sam Pig, I'm figuring Callum Newman and Bolton Oleg are going to be around 2 wins each. Is that too high or too low by an outrageous amount?
I think it's too low, but it might not be implausible. I feel like it depends on how quality those wins are, but I think I see them being closer like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think that they should at least get 3, if not more. Next 2 questions here from Trish. She says, who will make the dark horse run that we were not expecting to going in?
Well, you know, according to you and Chris, it sounds like El Phantasmo might be that guy.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that people are kind of not even maybe really thinking about that could go through. You know, we mentioned Uemura. I feel like he, depending on kind of what shakes out his character, you know, they're trying to push young guys to this first G1. They could really make a big splash with him if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
She also asked, what do you think the reason is for A block being more top heavy with names than B block?
You know, I really wondered when I saw that question. I wanted to look at the schedule and see if there was like a monetary incentive here where they felt like if they top loaded A block nights that it would, you know, from a business perspective, they would do better on that tour. And then, you know, the B block is more like the quality, you know, kind of work ratey tour. I don't know, but I can't say specifically that that's the case, but it kind of feels that way.
Yeah, I would have to go through and look at the tour. I'm assuming there's probably going to be some bigger buildings on the A block only nights. Maybe the B block only nights are a little bit smaller buildings, maybe.
That's what I was guessing personally.
Yeah. Let's see. Discord Daddy, who is feeling the most pressure to deliver in this G1?
Shota Umino, probably. I would say there's quite a few guys, but I feel like he really probably has, you know, a lot of pressure to perform to a certain level.
Yeah, I would say him and probably Suji. Yeah, those young guys probably want to really establish themselves here. Who do you expect to pick up Ishii's mantle or fill the gap that we're going to be missing?
I don't know if anyone actually realistically can. How do you know, fill the gap of the greatest G1 performer in the history of the tournament? But there's a couple guys in the B block that are going to try. We mentioned Hanare. The only person I know for a fact that has the chops to do it, though, is Shingo.
Yeah, I think obviously Shingo's going to give us lots up. And we kind of mentioned earlier, Hanare could be positioned to kind of be in that role of having those hard-hitting matchups, but we'll see if he can live up to those expectations. And then Discord has last question. Should the G1 have additional opportunities to qualify throughout the year? For example, the New Japan Cup winner automatically qualifies for the G1, or the provisional KPW champ gets an auto entry. Could New Japan work in some additional qualifiers on their C shows, similar to how they use for the New Japan Soul Tour?
I think those are all really cool ideas. And I think that they might have already done some of that in an unspoken kayfabe type manner, but it'd be interesting to have some of that spelled out for the fans.
Yeah, I think we've kind of already seen, all right, New Japan Cup winner, semifinal, and semifinals was in there. All the champions are in there. So I think a lot of that's kind of probably established. But yeah, it could be cool to have other opportunities or put more emphasis on like people's win-loss records throughout the year to say, you know, all right, you have to hit like X percentage of wins prior to G1 to get a full-on lock or be a champion. If not, then you're in the play-ins. Then last two questions here from Fraser Ramon in Discord. Given some view Shota as a favorite to win outright, who are some other G1 winners that have had very low main event counts in the blocks Shota could go without any?
I didn't look, and I know Chris isn't on the call to kind of unveil that. I'm gonna just guess and say that I feel like I think it was 1999 when what's wrong with me? Why am I forgetting names? Who won the 1999 freaking G1? He retired. He uses the torture rack as his finish. He was one of the dads.
Oh, Nakanishi?
Yeah, Nakanishi beat Kiji Muto in the finals. I think it was 99, maybe it was 2000. I kind of have to figure he didn't have very many main events during that tour, but you know, the G1 was a lot different back then too. I mean, it was shorter, just in general. So I don't know. He's going to be my just unofficial answer without even doing any research.
He also asked, as I add on to Trisha's question about the Dark Horse run, who do you think gets choker run and winds up on a surprisingly low point total given their kayfabe position?
I think Sonata. just considering the last year he went completely undefeated. He walked into the Tokyo Dome as the world champion and was, just very recently contending for the global title. I think he's going to have in a kayfabe sense, a failure of a tournament.
Yeah, that's probably a great pick there. I don't think that he's going to get very far. He's probably going to end up being like 4-5 in his block.
That is going to do it for the questions. Jeremy, I'll run through these G1 Climax nights that we have coming up. So, and what day are they actually? You don't have, you just have July.
I believe it's a Saturday.
July
and Sunday.
20th. Okay, so this coming Saturday and Sunday are the first 2 nights of G1 block action. And both nights are they all block matches?
So yes, night 1 is a 10 block night match, and night 2 is there only 9 block matches, and there'll be an extra B block match night on night 3.
Okay, I was like, why is there only 9 on the second night? Anyways, so night 1 opening up, we have Ren Narita versus Oleg Boltin. We have Shota Umino versus Callum Newman. El Phantasmo versus Hinare. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Great Okan. Hiroki Goto versus Jeff Cobb. Sonata versus Jake Lee. David Finlay versus Yuya Uemura. Evil versus Gabe Kidd. Konosuke Takeshita versus Yota Tsuji in the semi-main event. And then your main event for the evening on night 1, Shingo Takagi versus Tetsuya Naito. That is a pretty healthy looking card right there.
Yeah, that card is stacked. That is going to be absolutely great.
Yeah, and there's a lot of potential for some big upsets on that night. Quite a few, actually. And then night 2, we've got Sonata versus Callum Newman in B block action. Hinare versus Oleg Boltin. Gabe Kidd versus Great Okan. ELP versus Ren Narita. Evil versus Jake Lee. Hiroki Goto versus Yuya Uemura. Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino. Naito versus Zack Sabre Jr., and then David Finlay versus Yota Tsuji in the main event. I noticed there's no Takeshita, so I'm guessing he's in the B block match that is being omitted from this evening.
Yeah, so Takeshita and Jeff Cobb will be on night 3, which is an all A block night until that, for whatever reason, that B block match will be happening along with those 5 A block matches on night 3.
That makes sense, because I was going to say if it was another 10 match card, then and they had an extra B block night, they'd have to wrestle twice in the same night. So that makes sense. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. First 2 nights. Anything major you just want to point out? I know we've gone pretty in depth with these cards, but just anything you want to point out from either evening to look out for, real quick.
Yeah, I think the big thing to look out for is going to be a lot of those first night upsets that we talked about. A lot of guys are in prime position. The B block night 2, you got Oleg and Hinare. You got Umino versus Shingo. I think that could be upset. Night 1 with Oleg and Narita, Umino and Callum. There's so many upsets. Okan and Sabre. It's going to be really interesting to see who picks up wins on that first night. Uemura and Finlay, there's a lot of guys that are against established guys or challengers that could really set the tone and kind of give us a little sneak peek on what to expect in the fall.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested in David Finlay versus Yota Tsuji in the main event because they faced off earlier this year. David Finlay beat Yota Tsuji fairly clean. Plus, the back end history between those two guys going back to this past year's New Japan Cup, so that's going to be interesting as well. So yeah, it's 2 really strong nights back to back to kick off the G1 this year. I will just mention the news real quick. We're going to wrap up here, but we only got one news item. So NJPW Academy Showcase returns on Saturday, August 3rd at the LA Dojo. In addition to the current class, IWGP Tag Team and Strong Openweight Tag Team Champion Shane Haste, as well as NJPW Academy Coach, the DKC, and Stardom's Hanako will all be in action. And that is going to do it. Jeremy, we did it once again. We have gotten through another G1 preview. There were technical difficulties. There were storm sirens. Chris Samsa is holed up in a basement. Hopefully he's okay. And we're done. We have previewed this year's G1.
Yes, no tornadoes, no technical difficulties will stop us from previewing G1. So yeah, go to g1.sportofprowrestling.com, enter the competition there that Chris Samsa and Jeremy Sexton have put together. You can edit your blocks, I think probably up until the opening bell on night one. So if you listen to this show and you're like, man, you guys had some great ideas, great predictions, I'm going to change my bracket, you can easily do that. g1.sportofprowrestling.com. Follow Chris at the Chris Samsa on Twitter. Well, yeah, so that will wrap things up here for this week. So next week we'll come back and review the first 2 nights of G1 Climax 34. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/socialsuplex and the Wrestling Square Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com, and check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Samoitz. Imps WWE Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping a Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Goodbye. No, that's our old Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.